Good evening, everybody. I thought I was going to be on time or even early there for a second, but I let myself down. So, 7:01. Let's see who. Oh, yeah, there, Bill. Okay, there. Will Matt be on time? Technically, I wasn't, but hey, the pre-show has started, so I'm glad you're all having fun already without me. I appreciate that. I'm glad you do. Um, I was trying to pop in here at 7. I think it was just fate that brought me in here at 7:01. Uh, wasn't exactly technical difficulties. Just I think I hit the wrong button, so I would have been on time. But nobody ever expects that, so I guess. Hey, there you go. What's up? I don't want to surprise anybody. So welcome everybody. I am Matt Derrick. Nick Jacobs, our good friend from KSHB 41, is going to be joining us a little later, as always. I am assuming he's at Hy-Vee right now, finishing up shopping or putting away the groceries. So we'll hopefully get him after that. I know Nick this afternoon was doing a lot of breakdown. If you haven't seen it, he was been putting out his eye in the sky out on Twitter from the coach's film from the game on Saturday and what he saw. I saw Mitch Schwartz was even commenting on some of the videos that he'd put up. So some fun conversation and discussion there if you haven't seen it. If you got any questions about that, I'm sure when Nick gets here, he'd be glad to answer it. I'm going to try and actually be speedy tonight, and because we get a lot of questions, and I don't mind. I mean, I love doing this. This is a lot of fun. You all make it a blast and everything. So I really enjoy it. So it's not like I'm trying to get out of here. It's just that you all have a lot of great questions. And then I end up just pontificating on things for too long. And I all of a sudden, I think I'm doing really, really well. And then it's 8:30 and I'm answering a question from 7:15 and I feel bad. So I'm going to try and be a little more pithy tonight, get the answers out, let Nick expand maybe more than I do. So you can get good stuff from him. I'll try not to, talk too much. We'll see if Nick brings in any highlights. I don't know if he's got any B-roll that he can bring into with us tonight, but hopefully he can. But if not, we'll make do. A lot of things to talk about. As I said on the podcast over the weekend, the first practice is back, and the first practice back after that first preseason game is moving day. You get to see a lot of changes in camp as far as who's getting snaps, not necessarily talking about changes as the starters, but certainly changes as the depth chart goes down, and I'm sure we'll get some questions on that tonight at some positions and we can get into it. But you also start to see the 53 start to really focus down. And, great example is wide receiver, where I've been talking about, you've been seeing 10 to 11 different receivers getting work with the first team and with Patrick Mahomes. It's more narrowed down now. I mean, if Hollywood Brown were out there, might be 8, could be 7. It's 7 right now that's getting first team reps. At least it has been the last couple of days. Might be some surprises for some of you who is and is not getting reps right now and snaps with the first team. Like I said, I'm sure a lot of these things will come up. If not, I might force them up during the questions, but I always want to try and make this about what all of you want to talk about. And don't have a lot of much of a monologue tonight to begin with. I don't think that the injury situation outside of Hollywood Brown is that serious right now. Obviously, there's a couple of players who've been coming back. Nick Bolton is back on the field. Justin Reed, not any real contact for either one of those guys. I'm not even sure if I saw a whole lot of them in 7-on-7. Justin might have been. I know they were both involved a little bit in the install process, but neither one of them is doing any contact right now. I think it's pretty significant that both Jalen Watson and Najee Johnson are back and in contact. Really interested to see what kind of playing time they get this weekend against Detroit. It's going to be a really good test for that secondary and for those corners, and for a couple of guys who are trying to nail down a starting spot or two. We'll see how the Chiefs end up deploying their secondary. But especially with Brian Cook out right now and Justin Reed. Brian Cook obviously will be back. His family is expecting a child, so that's why he has been out the last couple of days. So it's personal positive news for him. He'll be back soon, but without him, It juggles up things, and it juggles up even the cornerback spot a little bit because it impacts Jamari Connor and where he plays. So a lot of interesting things been going on at camp and a lot of observations from the last couple of days. We'll get into that, but Luttrell spied some Jared Wiley highlights, and the hype train is going. And I'm on Team Jared Wiley. I made a bold prediction today that I'm not yet ready to put anything behind. I need to do like a bold predictions story and maybe do like a bold predictions podcast. I don't know if Nick will want to do one with me for 41 is the mic a segment, but my bold prediction, and I might have been goaded into it a little bit because we were talking about Sky Moore and uh, yards and all of this, but I'm taking Jared Wiley versus Sky Moore for most receiving yards, and I'm taking Jared Wiley this year. Probably that's a pretty bold one. Nobody else was willing to take up any action on with me with that one. Nobody in the media tent was on my side on that one. So I'm on an island right now. We'll see what happens, but that's my bold prediction, Luttrell. So hey, if you're on the hype train, I'm on it too. So let's just dive in. W and MB. So when Hollywood Brown was a winner in Jacksonville, who from the team would have stayed with him to help coordinate medical care, etc.? Any teammates stayed behind as a good wingman? Good question. Usually a player doesn't stay behind. I mean, obviously it's probably an option for some. A lot of younger players, not an option. They're just told to get on the plane and go. I'm not aware of any players that stayed behind with him. I am aware that one of the members of the athletic training staff did stay behind with him. I think I know who it is, but I don't want to put it out there until I'm 100% sure. But someone did stay with him, a member of Rick Burkholder's team stayed behind with him. It was one of the athletic trainers stayed with him. I know I can tell you back in 2019 when Tyreek had that issue, David Glover stayed behind with him. So that gives you just an indication about what kind of what the process usually is. I have asked, but I've not heard word yet about who did the procedure and which hospital that it was done. I was kind of curious if it was the same orthopedic trauma surgeon that did Tyreek's reduction, and I think that would have been obviously interesting coincidence. If it had been the same team and the same hospital that Tyreek had, I'm sure it was probably the same hospital because usually they go to a trauma center that's the closest one. And I think that Jacksonville Baptist, I think, is the one that Tyreek went to. I would imagine that's still the same hospital. Obviously, usually the same hospitals in Kansas City is the one that any players that are injured during a game are taken to. Go to KU Medical Center. So I would assume it's the same process. I don't think the hospitals change that much. They usually try and take them to the closest and best emergency room that they can. So that would make a lot of sense if it was the same place. Just don't know if it was the same doctors. Would have been quite, like I said, quite the coincidence if the same surgeon ended up treating him. And I'm hoping I can find that out. And if I will, I'll share it here so you'll know for sure. But I don't think any teammates stayed behind. It's possible, but a member of the athletic training staff absolutely did, and then came back with Hollywood on Sunday when he was cleared to travel. So, Clinton, unpopular opinion. Noah Gray is one of our most explosive short to intermediate receivers and should be considered a top 6 to 7 target weekly. I can't really fight against you on that one, Clinton. I don't think it's a terrible opinion at all. I still think that at this point, year 4, Noah Gray is kind of, is who he is. I think players usually kind of are at this point in their careers. And if I'm not mistaken, I think that I'll look it up here. My recollection is that Noah Gray's career highs are 3 catches for 45 yards. Let me look it up just to make sure I'm not making things up and correct anything. I just seem to remember there's a lot of times when Noah Gray gets close to a career high, and I keep thinking he's gonna break over it. He's gonna get a big one, and it just never comes out. But let's see here if my Pro Football Reference chart there will sort for me. What are you up to, Pro Football Reference? Come on. You're supposed to be able to sort that field. There you go. Yes, 3 catches for 45 yards are his career highs, and he has 4 touchdowns. So, I mean, is he the most explosive? Now, you mentioned it's a short to intermediate, and then I would probably, say, yeah. I mean, he's in that ballpark. I mean, I think he's a reliable target in that range. That's kind of what his game is. So I wouldn't fight that. Just can he be more than that? I'd love to see it. I think obviously it'd be great for the Chiefs. It'd be great for Noah in a contract year if he can show that he can be a little bit more than that, if he can have some big games. I think it's going to be harder with Jared Wiley because Jared Wiley is good. He's a bigger target than Noah is. We'll see what kind of a snap count breakdown that they get. I mean, I would still expect that Noah Gray is going to be the number 2 tight end, so that he's going to get more opportunities and see more targets maybe than Jared Wiley. However, Jared might get a disproportionate share of targets just because of his size and availability, especially in the red zone. That's kind of been a challenge. I mean, the 4 career touchdowns kind of illustrates the challenge for Noah as far as being a red zone target. But I'd love to see Noah be more of a middle of the field, like you said, short to intermediate range. If he could become a first down magnet, that would be great for him and the team. I just need to see more of it. So I've never felt like Noah is a bad player. I think he is an important player on this team. He's been very effective. Just need to see more of it. 3 for 45. It's consistent. He's done it a few times. He's been in that range a few times. I just want to see Noah Gray go 5 for 80 or something like that. I want to see some big catches. I want to see him make some big plays. I want to see him get more first downs. That I would love to see. And some of that may just simply be that the Chiefs just, not putting him in some positions to make those kind of plays. I do think it's a challenge to him to ask him to do some of the things that Travis does, because Travis is a completely different player. Travis is probably at least 3 inches taller than Noah. Got better size, better speed. So, yeah. Like I said, I like Noah. I think he's a good player. I think he's capable of more than he has shown, but he's a good teammate. He's a good team player, and he's willing to do a lot of things that don't show up in a box score, as the coaches like to say. And I think that's a good thing about him too. So doesn't have to necessarily put up the numbers to be a good player, and Noah's a good example of that. Luttrell, would KC be willing to trade for a 1-season rental? Example, if Judon was willing to be traded without a new contract. A couple of you weighed in Sharon saying, I think Judon would be a great addition, 2 to 3 year deal with versus a very low cap. I have heard no interest whatsoever that the Chiefs have in Judon, and I've been told that the Chiefs are not interested and not really looking for an expensive addition, that if there's anybody that they go out to get, it would be something affordable. And I mean, even Judon in his current contract, I don't know if I'd really fit him into that, because even though the Chiefs do have some cap space, they want to spend all of that cap space. They want to reserve as much of it as they feel that they need and they can for their own free agents. They want to use that on Creed, on Trey, on Nick Bolton. They want to focus on those 3 players first. And now that they have Harrison Butker done, that's the focus. So anybody that's going to get paid, anybody that is going to get part of that cap money, it's going to be one of those 3 guys. So I just don't see. I've been told one thing and then another thing happens before, so I'm never going to say never. But I think if the Chiefs, and there's 2 spots that I do believe that the Chiefs are interested in as far as upgrading. One is defensive end and the other is cornerback. Now maybe that will change this week. Maybe it'll change after the preseason game. If they like what they see from Najee Johnson and Jalen Watson, feel like one of those guys or both of those guys are capable of just going ahead and claiming the number 2 and number 3 spot on the depth chart at corner, Chiefs will feel a lot better about things. Brett Veach will feel a lot better about things. But I don't think that there's any interest, Luttrell and Sharon. I mean, I don't think there's a ton of interest, if any interest, in Judon, especially at his cost. I think they would be interested in a more affordable addition. I would be looking more at a player that is on a rookie deal that has underperformed elsewhere, that the Chiefs are thinking, hey, wait a minute, this guy was a former first or second round pick, is still affordable, somebody that the Chiefs liked, thinks that they can get more of, that they can coach. I mean, they got Joe Cullen, the defensive line, and Dave Merritt at corner. Those guys are great coaches. So if you get somebody that underperformed elsewhere, you can bring in. I think they would be interested in that. But I don't believe in. I would say with 99% certainty that the Chiefs are not interested in making a trade for anybody that they would have to pay. And that would certainly fit with an edge rusher or corner, any other position even that became available. I think there's obviously Brett Veach is always looking for a deal. If there was anybody they thought he could get, he absolutely would try to go get him. Justin, there you go. One of our members. Great to see you. He'll go out and get him, but I just don't see it happening for a player of that caliber and that price range. So I wouldn't expect it. Will they be in the market for some improvements between now and the waiver deadline and the waiver wire, August 27th and 28th? Yes. Could a trade be in the possibility? Certainly. But I'm not betting on it. I would be very, very surprised. So Dr. Ozzy, feels like people aren't talking about Justin Ross that much this offseason compared to how he's performed. Do you think that he's just burnt out from the hype last season? What does he need to do to make the 53? I was thinking about this a lot today, Ozzy, because you're not the first person that's kind of made that comment. I know I saw on Twitter, I think Carrington Harrison over at 610 made the same comment about that there's not that much hype versus maybe the perception that Ross has had a better year this year, better camp this year than last year. I don't mean to be the Justin Ross naysayer, and I don't want it to come across that way, but here's my thought on Ross and everything is that I don't know if he's been a whole lot better than he was last year. I mean, I think he's having about the same camp that he did last year. There are things that Justin Ross is really good at. I think the hype is probably lower because the Chiefs have done him the favor of not putting every single great play that he makes out on social media and as a highlight. I think that was a really disservice that they did to Justin Ross, last year. Because, hey, he was a young player, he's had a challenging background as far as the injuries, not having consistent opportunity to play. I mean, that was a lot, and he's a great physical specimen, and he can absolutely make highlight reel plays. But when you only see that, then you don't see the other struggles that he was having last year, then I do think that gives you an incomplete picture. And that did kind of create the hype. This year, I think they've done a better job of managing that and not putting him in that spot where they're putting out a lot of clips of him making these great catches. I mean, he's still making great catches. He's had a couple of them the last couple of days. He had one of them in the game the other night. As far as a contested back shoulder throw along the sideline, whether it's in the middle of the field or in the end zone, there's probably nobody better on this team than Justin Ross. Some of those catches. I mean, maybe Hollywood, maybe Rashee, but he's got a special talent for those throws, for those back shoulder throws, those fades down the sideline, just a contested jump ball. He's really good at that, and he's really good at just using the sideline as almost a I won't want to say it's not a defender since you're an offensive player, but he just manages the sideline really well as far as, body control, making a catch, getting his feet down, working against the defender. I mean, if it's just a one-on-one matchup on the sideline, Justin Ross is going to win a lot of those. He's really good at that. The challenge is that you just haven't seen the rest of the game develop. And I'd love to be pleasantly surprised. I'd love to see this guy go out and have a much better season than he had a year ago. I just need to see more of the complete game, and I don't think that we're seeing that. I still think he has a really good chance to make this roster because this team is still clearly enamored with him, coaching staff and front office. So, I think the Chiefs are going to keep 7 receivers. I'll have my 53 player roster projection, finish it up tonight after we're done during the Q&A, and Justin Ross is going to be on it. So I think he's making this team. But I don't know. I mean, I still, hey, I guess it's the show me state guy in me. I need Justin Ross to still show me some more. I think the coaches need, to see a little bit more in order for him to get the playing time. I think that's going to be a challenge. But like I said, I mean, there's one or two routes that which concepts that Justin Ross, he's probably the best player on the team at those concepts. It's just that there's a lot of other concepts the best at, and needs to work on those, needs to work on consistency. And if he can do that, I mean, he has the physical talent to be a really, really good player. It's just, is he finally going to put it together? I mean, we had the same questions about Kadarius Toney. I mean, they're both in kind of, to me, a similar category in that they both have incredible physical talent. Maybe not fair to put him in the Kadarius category because Justin Ross was an undrafted free agent and Kadarius Toney's a first-round draft pick. But they're both in that to me because both ridiculously physical, like I said, physical specimens that would not be Justin Ross, hey, had not been for the medical issues, maybe he is a first-round pick. He certainly would have been drafted if not for the medical issues coming out of college. So, once again, I guess I'll say it before Nick gets here. Your mileage may vary, but I'll be interested to see what happens with Justin Ross this year. If this is the breakout year for him, he certainly had a good camp. He is really good at certain things. He just needs working on a refinement to be a more complete player to get the playing time that I think he needs for that to translate into production. So, Chris, which veteran could be a shocking roster cut later this month? I'm trying to think of one other than the one that I'm going to be making on my 53, which I'm trying to find a spot for Kadarius Toney on this team right now, and I don't see it. That's not. I know a lot of people have been kind of either rooting or choosing or predicting Kadarius Toney not being on this team, and I've been of the philosophy that Kadarius Toney is most likely going to be on this team because for the last 6-7 months, I've been told that Chiefs still believe in this guy, that they like him, they believe in him, they think that there's something there. But during training camp, something has changed because as I was talking to you at the beginning of the show, that snap counts change when you get after that first preseason game, and the team starts to narrow down who is working where, who's working with the first teams, that it narrows down to really the players who are on the 53. And yes, Kadarius Toney has been banged up, so maybe that's the reason why. But Kadarius Toney was out there today, helmet, pads, he was on the sideline the entire practice, and by my count and my eyes, did not take a snap during team period, not even during third team, which was the work that he was getting and got some, I believe, yesterday. He definitely got some third team work yesterday, and he did have a play where he looked like maybe there was a little discomfort on the sideline. He was kind of stretching his leg out a little bit. Didn't have an athletic trainer come over to him and work with him or anything, but Matt Nagy mentioned it on Tuesday that availability has been kind of an issue, that he's got to stay healthy in order for him to be on this team. And that's the one that right now I think would be the one that would be the biggest surprise to a lot of people. Maybe not to everybody, because I know that his inconsistencies driven some of you all nuts. And so there would be, I think, good news to some of you. I don't know that there's necessarily another veteran. I mean, there might be some additions. I mean, this team assigned Irv Smith as a free agent, and I think he's absolutely on the cusp of the roster. I don't know that he's made it. I don't know that he's going to be off it. It's just he's going to be really, really close. When I make my 53, I'll just give you another sneak peek. He won't be on it. It's just a numbers game, and right now you're looking at who's getting the snaps and who's not, and I see a guy that's not getting any first team reps. It's hard to put him on the 53. So, and not getting any work with the ones and work with Patrick Mahomes. So, even though I think he's had a good camp, I think he's been pretty reliable. There's only been, I think, a couple of issues here and there, but by and large, he's caught most things. He's not the greatest pass blocker in the world, so maybe that's going to be the ultimate deciding factor, that they need someone who's better in pass protection, especially Jared Wiley's still a project there too, even though, that was kind of originally was hey, this is a good blocker that just happens to be able to catch the ball really well. I think that's now we're learning it's more the opposite. This is a guy who catches the ball really well. That's still a project as a blocker, even though he's got some good size. So, maybe you fit Irv Smith into that category. I'm not sure. There's any. It's possible like a Kelvin Joseph and Taylor, there you go. The other corner, Keith Taylor, the other veteran corner. They might not make this team. But I don't think there's anybody that's been a Chief for a long time that's really in danger of not making this team. I'm still not sure what the situation is with Derrick Nottie as far as his injury and where he's at. He's been activated. He's cleared his physical, but he's still yet to really get involved in team periods. But I think Derrick Nottie's making this team, so I don't think that's anybody that would be a surprise cut or anything. So I don't know. I mean, that to me, Chris, is really it. I don't think that there's a whole lot of other big surprises that could be on the horizon. Dave, what's the over/under when McKinnon is back on the roster? I think it's a legitimate question. Although I will say that I think if Carson Steele makes this team, it makes it a little bit less relevant for a Jerick McKinnon. And I'm not saying that Carson Steele is the second coming of Jerick McKinnon. That's not the case. It's just that, you put a Carson Steele on the roster, you're doing it because this is a guy that you believe can become a blocker, that this is a guy that you believe can be a decent third down back, somebody that can protect a quarterback, somebody who can, catch the football a little bit, somebody who can run hard. Isaiah Pacheco is trying to become more and more of a complete player and a three-down player. So, and Nick and I have talked about it. I mean, I know he had the injury at the end of last year, but the Chiefs just had a little bit less confidence in Jerick McKinnon in the second half of the season last year. I mean, he was a healthy scratch and wasn't getting, some time and I know that kind of bothered him a little bit. So I don't know that there's necessarily any hard feelings between him and the team. I have no reason to believe he wouldn't come back if the Chiefs were interested. I don't know if he's just biding his time, or I haven't heard if he is thinking about retiring. I don't know if there have been other teams interested. Would love to find out if I can. I'm trying to, so we'll see. But I right now I don't know if he is on the radar. He could be, but I'm not expecting Jerick McKinnon to just walk through the door with his cape on anytime soon. Sharon, Clyde Edwards-Helaire to IR, Steele on 53 with Pacheco and Prince, room for 7 wide receivers or defensive end. All reasonable takes there. It'll be interesting to see with Clyde. Him being out with the illness, which could not be related to his PTSD. I'm not going to speculate or ask anything about that. I mean, that's his business. That's Clyde's issue. That's Clyde. Not going to bring that into the football conversation, but I don't really know from his medical standpoint, a health standpoint. I don't know that, Clyde would be something that would be an IR candidate to begin the season. Probably a little bit too early to think about that. But if you're just talking about from a football standpoint, I mean, I don't think there's any doubt that what we've seen in training camp, that those 3 guys have been better than Clyde. So when he has been healthy and been available. So I think it's a legitimate question about, whether there's room on this team for Clyde. And to your point, Sharon, I mean, do you have room for 4 running backs on the roster and 7 wide receivers? That's hard to do. And I don't see how the Chiefs can probably avoid carrying 7 receivers with Hollywood, maybe, being limited at the beginning of the season or not available in the beginning of the season. He doesn't seem like it's an IR situation of anybody that you would be thinking about missing for a few weeks. So that I think does increase the likelihood that the Chiefs will keep 7 receivers. That means it's somewhere you got to cut. So 3 running backs, 3 tight ends, 9 offensive linemen. Somewhere, you've got to cut a spot in order to make room for that extra wide receiver or 2. For defensive ends, I mean, I think the Chiefs will keep 10 defensive linemen. Right now, I have it a hard case for keeping 5 edge rushers. I think there's only 4 on this team right now that's legitimately made a case for the 53. They could keep 6 defensive tackles. They're actually deep enough there to do that. But I think that illustrates another reason why that I think this team's going to be on the lookout for another edge player, another defensive end that could fit in. So we will see. I know Nick is in the green room, so I'll wait for his thumbs up before I bring him in. He will join us with his wisdom here shortly. He's ready. I think he's just tired of listening to me talk. So
I would never be tired of listening to you talk, Matt. Do I have no personality tonight, or is it going to be in the comment section that I look annoyed because I have to check my phone for work on things?
Well, I suppose it's going to just matter whether or not you get a question that annoys you.
It's amazing, like like how many people support us and watch us, but the comment section, anything in life, it's always just the people that are unhappy about something. Is there a whole bunch of Justin Ross questions that
I already had a Justin Ross question.
You already had the Justin Ross
already took the sword on that one. So
how about the Nico Remigio? How many we got of those?
We haven't got there yet. So. And no, I am now flipping to the end here. I told everybody at the beginning that once again, my goal was to try and be more speedy and efficient in answering the questions. So, that everybody can get their questions in, before 9:00. And it is 7:31. And I think this question that we're up on the screen was at 7:01. So I'm doing a great job so far, Nick.
So you're only 30 minutes behind. I'm proud of you. Proud of you.
And I'm just gonna. I'm looking at the end, trying to catch up at everything, and I'm just gonna tell. I will tell Aaron. We'll get to you. We'll get to you by the end. Although I am going to disappoint everybody who asked a Matthew Judon question. So,
don't do that, man. You're trying to keep people here watching, Matt. Don't ruin their dreams.
Okay, then Nick might not ruin your Matthew Judon question. So maybe Nick will.
Look at that. That's how you tease it, man. That's how you keep them hanging, Matt.
Hey, I'm trying to keep it real. You know me. I'm not a hyper. I'm not that guy. I'm trying to keep it real. So,
all right.
Anything you need to get off your chest, Nick? Any monologue moment here for you?
Not that I can think of yet, but I mean, somebody may ask something that takes me down.
Set off the rant. Right, well, I hope someone does.
I just need people to understand that I have a steak, a sweet potato, and the new movie Twisters waiting for me when we're done here. So if people, quote unquote, later watch this and be like, "Well, Nick looks like he's ready to get out of there," yeah, because it's definitely my off day, and there's some things I still want to do. I chose joining you guys over eating right now, so just understand that.
That's why Nick's the best, everybody. So he's chosen us over movies and a steak. That's pretty. I mean, I'm not sure I would choose this over a movie and a steak right now. So,
Matt, that's the way you inspire people.
I'm just keeping it real. Okay. No, I'm kidding. This is one of the 2 highlights of my week. So,
the one of the 2. I'm curious what the other is.
And and I always I always tell Jason Anderson at 8:10 that coming into the show on Fridays is the highlight of my week. Mm-hmm. So I don't want to offend him to think that it's not one of the highlights of my week. So this is the other highlight of my week.
I'm sure you got plenty more highlights than that.
The other highlight of my week is every time you call me, Nick. See, that always puts a smile on my face too. See,
I want to believe you. But
it is true.
I just want to believe you, but I mean, I don't know, man. I don't know.
I feel bad because every time this YouTube user asks a question, I think I just say it's W and MB, but it could be Wand MB. So you really need to tell me how I need to pronounce that, and because I feel bad now that I'm introducing your questions poorly.
Sounds like a fancy either law firm or like something like WebMD type thing. Where you go search it and you find things out, maybe it's an investment. I don't know, but I am curious to hear more about that username.
How did Jaden Hicks fall into the draft to a point where the Chiefs were able to grab him? Could he be a difference maker for Spags? I'm still trying to figure that out, Nick. I mean, I don't know what kind of questions that teams could have had about Jaden Hicks that made them drop him to the 4th round, because this was a guy that almost was a consensus was one of the top 2 safeties in the draft. And he has looked every bit the part of one of the top 2 safeties in the draft since the moment he got here. And he doesn't, I've seen no indication whatsoever that he's like a locker room problem or there's a red flag of any sort. I mean, if anything, this guy's looked like a model football player and citizen since he got here. So I don't know what he's hiding or what he did for teams to just overlook him on their draft boards. But I think this guy can be a difference maker for Spags. What do you think, Nick? I know you like him too.
I mean, we'll see what happens in terms of someday, like if somebody admits why they either had him low on their board or didn't select him in the 2nd, 3rd round, or why he's able to get to the Chiefs. I mean, we'll see about that part down the road, But I mean, they got him. Like the Chiefs got him. The Chiefs made the move, and like he's already strong safety starting potential of like already as a rookie. Hadn't even played his first NFL game, and he's already like giving quality reps out there in each practice at camp, and then in the preseason game, he had a lot of good moments, whether it's blitzing or in coverage or how he moved around, how he dropped and everything. He doesn't look overwhelmed. So, I mean, all that combined, can he be a difference maker down the road? Sure. Like right now, though, just let him like grow in the scheme and system. Let Dave Merritt put his marinade on his his ability, and then just watch him continue to grow throughout the season. And I mean, he's insurance for Justin Reed. Like that's the reality. That's what I said a long time ago, and like it's not like they've got their heir apparent for Justin Reed if they need it.
Yeah, I mean that's my ultimate takeaway with all of this is that with all of the talks for the contracts that we've been going through, there's been no noise whatsoever about Justin Reed and a contract for the Chiefs, and it would be totally completely out of character for the Chiefs to bring back Justin Reed, especially after the way that they've deployed their draft resources the last few years. Because right now, I mean, they would be set with Brian Cook, Shamari Connor, and Jaden Hicks as your safeties next year. I mean, Justin Reed's fantastic. He's a great leader. I mean, he's been everything that this team has wanted. And obviously, I mean, if they were to win a Super Bowl this year, you win 3 Super Bowls with the guy in 3 years, then he's done his job. But it would be very, very weird for the Chiefs to bring him back. And that's not a knock on Justin Reed. I mean, I think this guy is still a very valuable player in this league. I got no problems with him, but you're right. I mean, they seem to be set at safety with the 3 guys that they've got going forward.
Mm-hmm.
2 questions I'm going to combine into one here from Dan with, do they keep Sky or Tony or cut them both? And Cody, one of our members, how concerning is it that Tony isn't getting reps? I mean, I think one of these guys is on the 53, Nick, and one's on the wrong side of the 53 right now. It certainly has been unusual. Now, I will say, I mean, Tony got some reps yesterday. They were 3rd team reps yesterday during team periods. It was a 10-10-10. He did have a moment where it looked like he had some discomfort in his leg. So, and Matt Nagy today alluded to the fact that he needs to stay healthy. So maybe it was injury related today that kept him out, even though he had a helmet and pads. But I mean, right now you look at the reps, Nick, and I mean, the Chiefs are acting like Sky Moore's on the 53, and they're acting like Kadarius Toney isn't.
We'll see on Sky Moore. We'll see what happens there. I hope they do a phenomenal job of feeding him the football this week and maybe even next week.
You're saying they might be showcasing him.
I hope they give him 10 to 12 catches each game. I hope he has some of the best games of his career, and then see what happens from there. In terms of Kadarius Toney, look, he's been hurt 3 or 4 times in camp now. He had the back injury, he had the ankle injury that he created himself. The only thing I really remember about Toney from camp so far is he threw the football at George Karlaftis, and Karlaftis laid him out in a non-padded practice. That's what I remember from his time this year. And that I thought he accidentally wandered into a running back's drill at one point. Like, that's what I remember about Kadarius Toney this year. Is he a phenomenal athlete? Yeah, he's a good athlete, and he can make some impressive catches. But at the end of the day, like if I'm in the Chiefs' shoes, you don't have a roster spot for somebody that's going to be hurt half the season, or going to be hurt half the time, or just simply like I said, a couple, like when we did this last week, and he would catch a pass in 7-on-7, then he does a juke move inside, tries to rotate his foot, and then he gets hit, and then he gets up and he's hobbling on the ankle. And that was before the back injury happened. But that was that was self-imposed, because he went back into where the pursuit's at. And when you do that, things happen. Like, you get laid out because people are pursuing to that spot. And like, he just, I don't know. At the end of the day, I mean, look, they've given this man every opportunity to succeed. They've given him everything he could hope for to be able to, do what he can. He's gotten his rings. So like, I just don't know how much more patience you can continue to have. And with Andy talking about him the previous press conference, and Matt Nagy talking about him not being on the field either, like, I think they're getting to that point too.
Yeah, I mean, this is the time when you start to really focus on the guys who are going to be on your 53, and when you're not getting focused, it raises some questions. So I can't say anything different. I co-sign everything you just did. I love it when people pay close enough attention, Nick, that they can tell that you change your background. That's
we did it for 41's a mic from Saturday.
That's attention to detail that I love, because you only just did it. Exactly. This is the first Tuesday night with a new background. So
it is first Tuesday with it.
I'm proud of people for noticing that. Way to go, Mango. Let's see. And then I've lost my place, Nick. So
oh no, you said a long time ago you were at 701. So.
Yes, I was 701. Yes, and we were getting ready to go to Jesus. Yes. Had a couple of questions there. Are the Chiefs trading third pick this season? Are you talking about the third round pick for next year, Jesus? What do you? Is that what you were thinking, Nick? Or
I'm assuming he's talking about the L'Jarius Sneed pick. Since I have
there you go. Yeah. And was Gruden on the sideline? Thanks, you guys. Great content and a fun pod. Gruden gone this week. Looks like he was just in town for last week. Alex Smith was there today, and that was pretty exciting for everybody. So, I mean, I don't think I get no sense that the Chiefs are high priority, like they got to trade that pick just to bring in some help or anything like that. I don't think that's the case whatsoever. Could it be available for the right player? Sure. But for me, I don't know if you feel differently, Nick. I mean, I mentioned at the beginning before you got in here, I think if the Chiefs are going to make a trade, it's going to be for someone who is affordable, doesn't cost a lot money or draft pick wise, that can help them at defensive end or corner. And they're not interested necessarily in acquiring somebody who's going to cost a lot of money or that they're going to have to give a contract to, or anybody that's going to require a lot of draft pick compensation.
Yeah, here's the bigger reality, and I'm going to go a little in depth on this one. Is so I was talking with a former player last night, and we were just kind of chatting about some of the draft picks and everything, and this actually works out perfectly for this question. If you think back to last year with the Chiefs, I'm convinced they were trying to trade up for Zay Flowers. Like, that's who they wanted. Didn't work out. Didn't get Mozzie Smith. Didn't get Harrison, the tackle from Oklahoma, if that's what they were after. They took Felix Anudike-Uzomah. And if you've listened to Brett Veach over the years, he's talked about how you normally have 18 to 20 first-round picks. And then, so where the Chiefs are routinely drafting at is more than likely second-round grades for pretty much most of the league. And so in that regard, somebody like Felix, the thing uniquely for the Chiefs with Felix there is the draft was in Kansas City. So, I mean, you're not trading out of the first round if the value is not where you want to be able to pick up additional picks. So hypothetically, say the Chiefs did get Zay Flowers in the draft last year. They would have had to give up a premium for him because teams aren't doing the Chiefs favors. They're not just helping them get up there, although Buffalo, maybe, but outside of Buffalo, teams really aren't doing the Chiefs favors for the most part, and probably trying to take a little extra in premium in the picks that they're asking for from the Chiefs. So having 2 third-round picks is valuable for down the road, because if you go back to the Flowers thing, that created a domino effect. So the Chiefs didn't get Flowers, then they didn't get Mozzie Smith, they took Felix Anudike-Uzomah. Then they also took Rashee Rice in the second round. So if they get Zay Flowers, I don't know if they take Rice last year. And, you may not have the year, you may not go to the Super Bowl, and things just go differently, and the butterfly effect starts from there. But, like, the kicker of it is for people is, like, the Chiefs are, with where the Chiefs are at and the success they're having, they need as many picks as they can if they need to trade up to get certain impact players. So, like, over these next handful of years, the ability to franchise tag somebody and trade them for a second, third, or fourth round pick is actually more valuable than you realize, because if they keep picking at 28 to 32, then they're going to be constantly getting second rounders that they have to develop, that they just get a 5th-year option on if routinely it's 18 to 20 first round draft grades on a regular basis. So I think that if you trade that third round pick this season, I think you lose the opportunity of giving yourself maximum flexibility for a first rounder you may want. Because, for example, Joe Alt, I watched his tape last night with the Chargers. Joe Alt looks great with the Chargers. But guess what? The Chiefs were going to have to give up like a first, couple thirds, maybe a second, maybe additional first, because they were going to have to get to 4 with the Cardinals. And the Cardinals probably weren't going to do it because they want Marvin Harrison. And then the Chargers weren't going to do it because Chargers were going to take Alt or J.C. Latham at 5. And then we found out from Hard Knocks that the Giants were pretty set on either Drake May or Malik Neighbors. So, like, the Chiefs were going to have to give up a lot to get up to that range for somebody of that talent, that talent and caliber. So, in the long scenic route that I'm going here, what I'm saying is the more picks you have allows you the flexibility to go get those players. And this is something I think Brett Veach and them are really – right now they have the coaching staff that can develop who they get, where they get them at. But that's why teams normally can't stay at the top on a regular basis when you're – that's why what the Patriots did was so impressive with where they were picking out on all the time, is because you're not getting the premium can't miss talent. You're having to take guys that you have to develop and then just go from there.
Yeah, absolutely true. And that's, I think that's really good layout about exactly why the Chiefs would favor trying to hold on to draft picks without necessarily, giving up a lot to try to acquire a player. There's no doubt. I mean, Brett Veach is much more interested in the currency during the draft, of being able to move around the board. He loves being able to do that on draft day, to go and try and get the player that they need. So, and that's how this team is going to have to build talent going forward. I mean, this team knows it has to do a couple of things. I mean, one of them is that it absolutely has to be able to win the draft. It's got to be able to scout well. So it needs to be able to identify those undrafted players and find the ones that they can hit on to fill out that roster. And they need to be able to keep finding good free agent additions. I mean, they need to keep being the ones that find the Drew Trenkles of the world, because, you don't necessarily build a winning roster by, and this is not a knock against Charles Omenihu, but it's just, you don't build a winning roster by paying a lot in free agency for players. You win by getting value for players and signing low and getting them to give you high results. So, yeah, Brett Veach, long story short, wants to hold on to his draft picks. So I've got no problems there. I think it was a very, very good explanation of it, Nick. Thank you.
I tried my best.
You did. Man, I am once again, it's 7:49 and we're at 7:03, Nick. I blame myself. It's all already my fault.
Hey, what's waiting for me after this. No pressure, Matt.
I know. I'm going to give a short answer to this one, Brian. I seriously don't think that you're going to see a Rice suspension this year. I mean, the only way that I think you would is for this case to be resolved out of nowhere at a quick hurry. There is no indication that I have seen so far that this case is going to be resolved by the end of the season. If it's not resolved by the end of the season, Rashee Rice is not going to be suspended this year. He's going to get suspended when the case is resolved. So until then, I don't think there's a whole lot of reason to worry about it. I mean, and even when it is resolved, I mean, the NFL wheels of justice move very slowly. I mean, it still is going to take a month or two before they finish their work and hand out a suspension. So I would not worry about it. I don't think that don't worry. There's not a conspiracy out there to try and, get the Chiefs to, suspend Rashee Rice during the playoffs. It's gonna get resolved when the case gets resolved. And I just don't see any evidence whatsoever that case is going to get resolved anytime soon. So,
should I be blunt about this, Matt?
Go for it, Nick. Be blunt.
Okay. Unless, like Matt said there, unless the case gets complete, case is closed in whatever way it's going to be, or there's some type of plea thing in that regard that kind of ends it in any way, shape, or form. I feel like we keep talking about like that storm that's a couple months away, but you just keep worrying that when is that front going to get here? When's that front going to get here? When's that front going to get here? But also the other part of it is, if I'm in the NFL shoes, I don't want to do anything until it's resolved. Like I don't want to make a decision on anything until you have every single fact possible. And so is there something you're going to find out from a a witness statement? Is there something you're going to find out down the road here that isn't going to come to light until the court case? And if that's and I'm not saying there is, but I'm saying if you're in the NFL, you don't want to take that chance and then have it, get egg on your face later and have, and not, have a situation where you're like, boy, we really should have waited on this. So, I mean, like, I understand everybody keeps worrying about it and everybody keeps getting nervous about everything, but if it happens, it happens. But I mean, every indication, as Matt has constantly continued to tell people, is like until it's resolved, like, it's business as normal.
Yeah, and that's the bottom line. And you hit it really well, which is that the NFL's been burned a few times by, handing out suspensions before they knew all the facts. And they learn from that. And that's why that the NFL no longer does this. They don't hand out suspensions until they know all the facts, because they don't want it to come out that, hey, there's information that they didn't know about that then makes the casework look much worse. And they can't go back and suspend the player a second time for the same thing. They want to get it right the first time. And they've made mistakes of not doing that. They got it wrong the first time. They look stupid. They don't like to look stupid. So now they would rather wait and get it right and hopefully look appropriate than, make the wrong suspension, make the wrong move. And it's gone the other way too. I mean, it's gone the way where they in the past, they handed out suspensions to players, and then you wonder why they did it, because once the facts came out, it didn't seem like the punishment fit the crime. So it goes both ways. So I do appreciate the way that the NFL does it now, because I think it's the appropriate way to do it. Wait until you have all the information. Don't go off half-cocked the way that the NFL has sometimes. So this is one thing, at least I think, that Roger Goodell is actually starting to get right. Still not completely right, but they're at least moving in the right direction. Mark, do you think Bolton or Reed sees any preseason action? I'd be surprised. I mean, now some of the starters, Nick, did see some preseason action last year on the defensive side. Neither one of those guys are going to play this week for sure. I mean, there's no doubt about that. I'd just be interested to see what Spags decides to do for that final preseason game. I mean, if they're healthy enough, I think he'd like for them to maybe go out there and get a few snaps. Like I said, I mean, he started everybody, I think, last year in that last preseason game. They played at least a couple of series. I think they want both those guys at least to get a little bit of work before week one, but we know how the NFL is these days.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm in the Chiefs' shoes, you keep it in a controlled environment at practice where you're not having to worry about any hypothetical thing that may happen from an opponent and opposing team and everything. So at the end of the day, I've said it a million times, I'll say it a million times more. You want to win the war, not the battle. So having them go play a couple snaps in preseason and they potentially have something happen to them, well, you just lost part of the war. So, like, at the end of the day, this is about the marathon that is a Chiefs season. It's not about like, hey, how can you do in this 400-yard meter? No. You're trying to do that. You're doing the long distance running like the MU runner was that went 26, minutes and was a handful of miles. That's what an NFL season is.
Correct. It absolutely is. Rick's asked about your namesake, Nick. What's the story with the Penn State linebacker? I thought he was impressing folks. Curtis Jacobs. He has been impressing folks. I think he's on the outside looking in linebacker spot, but only barely. I mean, I think the Chiefs are going to keep 5 linebackers. Right now, I think he's the 6th linebacker on the team. That would still get you on the practice squad if you clear waivers. But I mean, I've been impressed with Jacobs. I think there's a lot there.
Yeah, I think we'll see what happens in the next couple of weeks from a special teams perspective. He's got the athletic ability. He's got the strength. He's got the pop. And boy, is he athletic when he drops back into coverage and zone. Very, very good at that. Maybe one of their top 3 linebackers in terms of dropping back into zone coverage and having quite a hit that goes with it too. I'm not counting him out. I could see the Chiefs keeping 6 linebackers purely because of the kickoff and kick return. So, I mean, that's something where, like, Curtis Jacobs over the next couple of weeks, is he on kickoff? Is he on kick return? If he's on those things, then, if he can make a splash that way, then I think he justifies a potential spot for him. So we'll see how it shakes out. But, I mean, I'm not discounting him, just purely based on his name alone, Matt.
Exactly.
A strong
And
last name.
and here's the funny thing, Nick. You and I were talking on the phone earlier today, and I was actually getting ready to make this exact same point that I'll go ahead and make now,
Yeah.
which is that every once in a while you see things that seem like maybe that there's a difference of opinion on the coaching staff about a player. And Jacobs and Swayze Bozeman are in that category to me, because looking at how the first couple of weeks of training camp went, I got the impression that Dave Toub was a lot higher on Curtis Jacobs than he was Swayze Bozeman, and yet the defensive coaches, I think, were the other way around. But right now, I mean, and now some of that was, Swayze Bozeman got dinged up a little bit, but right now, I mean, I think it's pretty clear Curtis Jacobs is higher on the list across the board. I think they're interested in Bozeman too, but one thing I put so much stock in the special teams, and right now I don't see Jacobs on the first team special teams, which is the only thing that has him on the outside for me. But to your point, I mean, it doesn't preclude them from keeping a sixth. I mean, it just depends on how you stack the roster. And there's probably a guy. I mean, it's some decisions that are going to have to be made, like a Deion Bush. Do you have him on the 53 because he's a really good special teams player? Do you have a Curtis Jacobs on the 53 because he's, I think, going to be a good special teams player? Do you try and get them both on the practice squad, knowing that you got, hey, there's 6 elevations right now for a practice squad player? You never know. So we'll see how they end up shaking it all out. But no, I think Nick and I are both, Jacobs fans, and not just because he has a great last name. So Chiefs Kingdom, a bit behind on all the preseason action. What's the latest possibility of a Justin Reid type handling kickoffs to capitalize on the new rules? I mean, I certainly think, Nick, to start off with, the Justin Reid injury precludes that for now. I don't think you're going to see Justin Reid kicking off anytime soon, if ever this season. It's going to be up to whether or not Rees-Zammit fits under the 53. I mean, that's the only other option, and the Chiefs obviously let him get a kickoff the other night in the preseason game. He's done it in practice again this week. I don't know if he's going to make the 53 or not, but he's the only other option, right, Nick?
Yeah, I mean, like, I would not, with Justin Reid coming off that quad thing, do not do that. Do not aggravate anything leg-wise. Don't even go down that road. Don't even cause any more problems. Don't do it. And then I mean, personally for me, I think Rees-Zammit's going on practice squad. So if I think Bucker's your guy. Ariza is potentially probably second in line in that regard, and then you go from there if you have to. But I mean, hypothetically, say something happens Bucker wise, then I think Ariza takes over for that game, and then they go sign another kicker and go from there.
Yeah. I will add today, Chris Jones did try a field goal, not during a special teams period, but just on the side with Ariza and Butker were kicking on the side field, and Chris Jones took an attempt from about 30 yards.
Yeah.
It was wide and maybe a little short, but it was really wide. So Chris Jones will not be kicking off anytime soon. I can confirm that. So, won't be happening. Mango kind of hit on a key point and key question here, Nick. Has Nico Remigio had any reps with Patrick in camp since Jacksonville? If not, is this a bad sign for his roster chances? I have kept track of every snap for the first team and the pass catchers and skill players on the field. I don't have a 100% record, Nick, because sometimes the plays and there's too many things going on and too many distractions. People grab my attention and ask me questions, and I get distracted. So I only have probably about 96% accuracy on all the players. But I did not see Nico Remigio have any first team reps the last 2 days. And that does say a lot to me about where he is, at least as far as the roster goes right now. Doesn't mean he's not going to make it. Doesn't mean he can't work his way back on. Injuries happen. There's a lot of moving parts. Special teams are going to be a big part of it too. And obviously Dave Toub likes him as a kick returner, and he's been the number 2 punt returner for almost the moment he's gotten here. But when you're not getting reps with the number one quarterback, Nick, it's hard to say you're going to be one of the receivers.
For me personally, I'm not going to read anything either way into it right now. We'll see what happens on Saturday, and if Nico Remigio can not jump when he's catching the pass, because that play would have gone a lot differently if he kept his feet on the ground and caught it, and he would have minimum gotten another 15, not a touchdown off of it, just depending on if he can shake that safety angle-wise in the pursuit. But yeah, I mean, look, we'll see what happens. I mean, Remigio, either way, he's been that 6-7 range receiver-wise and has been since the start of OTAs and minicamp, and maybe because McCole Hardman to me is locked in as the 5. So right now you're just really questioning who's going to be 6 and 7. Is it going to be Sky Moore? Is it going to be Nico Remigio? Is it going to be Justin Ross? Who the heck knows? But at the end of the day, you're hoping you don't see any of them on the field on a regular basis, because then that means things went terribly wrong with Hollywood Brown, McCole Hardman, Xavier Worthy, and Justin Watson and Rashee Rice. So I get that everybody's enamored with the 6th and 7th receiver, but I'm hoping we don't see them on a regular basis, because then during when the season starts, because then things aren't going well from a health perspective.
Yeah. Ozzy has a question that I knew was going to come up tonight.
As it should.
Sports gambling made it onto Missouri ballot for November. Do you think that's too late to matter in the stadium planning, or is that going to be consequential? I have my thoughts, Nick, but what do you think? What's your kind of take on that?
Matt, you need to go first, because I've got to be
neutral from the 41 KSHB 41 perspective.
Got to be neutral on this.
I should have. I was just thinking I was talking too much and dominating, so I thought, I should give Nick here a chance to have the first take, and then I forgot the question. That'd be inappropriate. So I'll go ahead and say it, Oz. I mean, here's the thing. Mark Donovan will tell you, and has told us, that it's not that big of a deal, and that the Chiefs probably are not planning on being a big part of the campaign publicly, because they want to save their powder for anything that they have to put onto the ballot as far as the stadium goes in the next 12 to 18 months. They don't really want to get weighed into the politics of this, but they are going to put money into it. You can bet on that. St. Louis Cardinals and their owner, Bill DeWitt's been leading the charge on this, and is probably going to be leading the campaign on this. The Chiefs are going to support him in probably every single way, except, throwing a lot of their weight around publicly, but you can count on the fact that they're going to be cranking out some checks for the campaign this past. And Mark Donovan will say, hey, they have their sponsorship deals in place with, Fantasy and MGM for, betting, so that it's not really creating any new revenue. That's a little bit misleading, because in this ballot language would be the opportunity to set up sports betting districts, and those districts would be, in theory, in stadiums, to create the opportunity. So there'd be kiosks in the stadiums. That's certainly a revenue source. So I think Mark Donovan, I'll be honest, I think was pulling a little Jedi mind trick, a little Obi-Wan Kenobi thing here, with everything he says is true from a certain point of view. Chiefs want sports gambling to pass. They've been working on this issue for years. They helped deliver the signatures. They had KC Wolf go over to Jeff City to help deliver the signatures, Nick. So they're hip deep on this one. They want it to pass. And if it does pass, there is going to be gambling incorporated in a stadium in Missouri. If the Chiefs build one here, or they stay in Arrowhead, there is going to be gambling incorporated into it, and they're going to make a ton of money off of it. So no, in the long and short, it's not too late. I mean, the Chiefs are hoping that it will. Even if they had a plan in place right now, for a stadium, I am certain that there would be contingencies for putting gambling into that stadium, because that's the wave of the future. That is just a future revenue source for all of these teams, and they want to be ready to capitalize on it.
Matt, you said it perfectly. The key word: revenue stream. It is an untapped revenue stream in the state of Missouri for the St. Louis Cardinals, for the St. Louis Blues, for the Kansas City Chiefs, for the Kansas City Royals, for maybe even the Mavericks,
maybe the Springfield Cardinals. There you go.
Like, it's an untapped revenue source.
The Current. There you go.
It's an untapped revenue source for every sports organization that's in the state of Missouri. at a professional level. College level, I don't know what impact it'd have on NIL, but I doubt it's going to hurt. So, in some ways, I feel like they've been behind the state of Kansas by not having this available. So, we'll see what the voters decide. We'll see what the voters believe in every way, but I just don't think that personally it is going to. I think it's an untapped revenue stream for a lot of people in sports and outside of sports.
There you go. Albert, is there a special teams practice in the afternoon that's closed to the public and reporters? Help me, Nick. If I remember, Nick, the CBA allows teams to have, is it 4.5 hours on the practice field a day during training camp?
I want to say maybe, but I
think it's 4.5.
There's language in there about what they can do for a full practice, what they can do for a walkthrough. And so, I mean, the walkthrough is the part that we never see.
Correct. What is open to the public, what's open to the reporters is the full speed practice. That's the only one that they have. And there's a limit on that. I think it's a 2.5 hour. Don't quote me on the times.
I don't think they can go over 2.5.
I believe it's, like I said, I think it's a 4.5 hour day as far as being on the practice field. And I think it's 2.5 is the max for live speed. And then anything else that they do is a walkthrough pace. And so, yes, I mean, they do have a closed session that is at a walkthrough. It's not a full speed practice, not helmets, not pads, nothing like that. So it's a different kind of practice. I mean, it's still very important to what they do. And that's why, I say two things. I mean, one is that we get to see 2 hours of what is a 13-hour workday for these players, because they get 11 hours off during the day during training camp. They get 13 hours on the job. Now, that's 13 hours, 4.5 on the practice field. But there's also sessions for meetings, for you name it. I mean, they can use all 13 hours of that any way that they want to, the team can. And usually they do. I mean, there's going to be meetings, there's going to be weight room, strength training, conditioning, you name it. I mean, they got plenty of stuff. We get to see 2.5 hours of that, So that's why, sometimes teams do things that we don't necessarily make sense. Well, you know what? Because they see a lot more of these players than we do. But yes, there is another session, and special teams is a part of that. Special teams has their own meetings. They work extensively on those things. So yes, there's a lot of work behind the scenes that we just don't see. But you wish you could see it, don't you, Nick?
I'm all about it. Anything I watch football wise, I'm all about.
I mean, I'm gonna have to defer to you on this one, Nick, because I'm not sure that I really saw this, but I have not gone back to watch Felix specifically. Finally tuned saying Felix got plowed in the run game. Any hope?
That's a gross exaggeration. Look, right now he's still working on this strength training. Or that's going to decide how much he's going to see the field on first and second downs, or if he's just going to be a rush specialist. How he does against the run is going to decide how much you're going to see him on the football field. Now, where a lot of people are reading into it is that he was still out there into the fourth quarter getting reps. But as you and I talked about on the podcast, that guy needs as many reps as he can get. The more reps he can get, whether it's first, second, third team, fifth team, against the mascots, I don't care. But he needs as many reps as he can get at the defensive end position to help himself get better. And to say he got plowed in the run game, that imagery makes it sound like Carson Steele ran him over, or that he was laying on the ground multiple times. Did he go up against some tight ends and have stalemates? Yeah, he did. Did he go up against some left tackles and have stalemates? Yeah, he did. But was he getting pushed back 5, 10, 15 yards? No, he wasn't. He wasn't getting pushed back like Tyson Jackson used to when Tyson Jackson was a top 5, top 10 pick. That was not happening. So to say it that way that's disingenuous. So, but I mean, does he have a lot that he still has to work on? Yeah. And right now I see him as a rotational guy that's going to have to be a pass rush specialist and still trying to figure out and how to put it all together. He's got better hand fighting. He's got quicker rush moves. He can do a couple things right now to where he can set a tackle up and work inside, but he's still not at a level to where it's second nature for him right now, and he feels comfortable with it. That's what I see on film. That's what's happening. So can you pencil him in as a starting defensive end right now? Probably not, because Steve Spagnuolo and them want a guy that can be like Mike Dana or even Leo Chenal and be able to push somebody back and set the edge. And Felix is still trying to work that out and figure that out. And I understand people have high expectations for him because he's a first-round pick and everything. But I don't think we are genuinely going to know who Felix is or isn't until like middle of year 3. Whether people like it or not, I think that's the reality.
And I'm not saying this to try and be excuse guy, because it's not my job to make any excuses for these teams or anything. But there's 2 things I took away from that game, Nick. And one is that it was 106-degree heat index at kickoff. So when I look at Felix's numbers, and he has the second most snaps at 36 snaps,
Yep.
I'm going to say that a lot of those snaps were probably not great snaps because it was 106-degree heat index in Jacksonville. That is hot and humid. It was nasty out there. I would not have wanted to play in that. I'm sure it absolutely affected his performance. I'm sure it affected everybody's performance. Other part of it too is that, Nick, that game meant a lot more to Jacksonville than it meant to the Chiefs. I mean, Jacksonville was trying to win that game. I mean, the Chiefs honestly didn't care if they won the game.
Although Steve Spagnuolo was throwing some blitzes out there that are like
throwing a few
regular season.
I don't know if he was throwing as many of those as Jacksonville was at Ian Book, poor kid.
Oh, Ian Book can't read a defense. Don't even worry about it. Ian Book just takes off running. It's like one read, I'll go, run.
he might have some protection issues, but But Jacksonville was trying to win that game. So Mango, is Jared Wiley's ceiling Travis Kelce and his floor Noah Gray? Probably too early to say. I mean, first of all, nobody's ceiling is Travis Kelce. If anybody hits Travis Kelce levels, they've gone past their own ceiling, Nick. So
yeah, I'll answer this, and I gotta check some out on my email.
Go for it.
I'm working on some stuff for a pregame show, but then there's also something else that came out that we can talk about here in a minute. So for people that don't know, before I get to this point, the Chiefs pregame show, if you're in the Kansas City market, will be on KSHB 41 and from 2 to 3 this upcoming Saturday. And then the game will be on KSHB 41 at 3 p.m. with Kickoff. And then the post-game show will start once the game's over. Hopefully it's 6 and hopefully over by 7 o'clock. Then Matt and I will do a podcast much later that night after we both get done with our responsibilities. And we've been working on some booth wrap stuff and some other things that we're setting up for the show. But to answer the Jared Wiley thing, nobody's going to be Travis Kelce. Nobody's going to be Travis Kelce athletically. He's one of one. He's one of one. Can Wiley be like Travis Kelce size-wise, have an advantage size-wise that Kelce does? Yes. Is he going to be able to learn everything that he can from Travis Kelce? You bet. He does every day. You and I see him out there at Chiefs training camp. He is picking Travis Kelce's brain. He's learning from Travis Kelce. He wants to see everything that Travis Kelce does. He wants to soak it in like a sponge. So does he have a chance to get in the ballpark? That would be awesome if he does. But he may also just be Jared Wiley, and he may be a great tight end in general. It may be a great red zone threat, which he will be someday. But Noah Gray is a different type of receiver and a different type of tight end. Like Noah works really hard in pass protection and gives everything he's got from a strength perspective and trying to down block and drive down the line. And Noah has learned from Travis how to find voids really, really well and how to really kind of sneak through coverages that are in zone and where the soft spot will be. And that's kind of where Noah's wheelhouse is. And he's gotten a little bit quicker this year, a little bit more acceleration than he had previous years. I think he's dropped a little bit weight in some regard to really kind of help with part of that. So I think they're completely different players. And I think Jared Wiley is going to learn from Tom Melvin. He's going to learn from Travis Kelce. He's going to learn from Noah Gray. He's going to learn from everybody. And I think he'll be Jared Wiley. What Jared Wiley will be, who the heck knows? But I think there's a ton of promise there that Chiefs fans will love in the red zone and Chiefs fans will love long-term to have that big body tight end that can withstand some of the big hits he's probably going to take.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I'm high on Jared Wiley. I think he's going to have a good year this year, but it's hard. It's too early to say, especially from a career standpoint. So we'll see. All right, Nick, do you need to step out for a little bit?
No, you're good, man. Just
okay.
You keep going. I
was gonna say I can kick you out if you need to and bring you back.
You're good. You're good.
All right, let's see, everybody, if I can find my spot. So Nick might be back before I find my spot. I was looking at it. I know because it's like 8:16, and I think we made it up to 7:21. So, um,
I love that you lost your spot. That's great.
I went down to try and see what everybody's saying, leave some comments, and come back,
Dude,
and then
Matt, you can't do that, Matt.
I know. Well, I had it in my head where we were. I guess I
Yeah.
was at 7:16, not 7:21. So that's my problem. I know I can't be trusted. So
No, you can be trusted. You're fine.
hey, there we go. I finally found my spot.
Outstanding, Matt. I'm very proud of you.
Okay. Albert, is CEH in danger of not making the 53? We kind of talked about this a little bit earlier, but I mean, is he in danger? I think there's a possibility. Is it likely? Not necessarily, and it's really hard to see. I mean, and KL368 is kind of the same question: is the CEH going to keep him out to 53 or change how the 53 is built? I mean, there's a distinct possibility the Chiefs could keep 4 running backs. So I'm not. I mean, there's a possibility the Chiefs could keep CEH and still keep Isaiah Pacheco, Deneric Prince, and Carson Steele. Nothing says they couldn't do that. So I don't think I don't necessarily see or hear anything that suggests to me that Clyde's in serious danger. I think you got to be available. That's one thing that has been the challenge for him and that's been some bad luck on his part too. So I don't know. I really don't know how to answer, because until we see him back on the field and kind of see where he fits in, I don't know where he fits in right now. Nick, you're working on things, Nick, so I don't want to drag you into it, but
you're good, man. I can answer it if you want me to.
Go for it.
Okay.
I'll let you.
So look, Clyde didn't have a lot in the tank last year, acceleration wise and athletically, and with what he finally publicly admitted he'd been going through health wise, both mentally and physically, it makes sense. And so, like, he's got more he's battling than what's going on a football field each and every day. And he's a guy who knows the system. He's a guy who can be a part of the team. It's just the problem you're going to have is you don't know when there's going to be certain days with the illness. Like you're not going to be able to know on this day he's going to need this day and he's going to need this day. It's with what he has going on, and I'm talking like from a I don't remember what it's called offhand. I just know it's whenever he's had to be hospitalized before because of the syndrome that it is. That I'm not talking about the PTSD. I'm talking about the syndrome. And like that thing sounds kind of unpredictable, and that's not something he can necessarily control. It's just whenever it happens, he's got to deal with it, and he knows how he's going to have to deal with it. So I don't wish, I don't wish for him to lose his job in any way, shape, or form. I just think you're going to have to. I think you have to keep personally. I think you got to keep a 4th running back so that you have somebody available if he does have the illness kind of pop up and then he can't go for that weekend when a game's happening. So I would personally, if I'm in the Chiefs' shoes, I keep 4 running backs for that alone, with Clyde on the roster.
Yeah, and I mean, I can certainly see it going the other way too, which is that you keep Clyde on the roster. Maybe you only have 3 running backs, but you keep 2 on the practice squad. As for that exactly that reason, for the insurance. So maybe you end up with 5 running backs. It's just the difference of is it 4 and 1 or 3 and 2 as far as you stack them on the practice squad. So like I said, I'm not certain that I've seen enough evidence yet to think that he's in serious danger, but when you're not available, yeah, I mean, there's a certain amount of risk that you might not make the team. So, KL368, Oscar asked about Tier Hart. Any interest there? No, not the way that it's gone out with the last couple of teams that he's been with. I don't think that's kind of a situation that you need if you're the Chiefs. And from an interior defensive line standpoint, I don't think that they need that. I think that they've got enough depth there. I think they got enough people that they like without having to go that direction. So if there's any interest on the defensive line, I think it'll be on the outside, on the edge. So That's where I would be if I were the Chiefs and what I would be looking for. And then, Nick, sometimes I'm not even trying to scroll down and I just hit the wrong button and get lost. So don't worry, everybody. I'm going to get back. It's all going to be fine. Don't worry. Oh, dear. The fun we have on the Tuesday nights. Thanks, everybody, for putting up with me and my nonsense and shenanigans here. I probably just keep wanting to get to, I'm probably skipping something, but Kevin's question's been sitting here and I've been thinking about talking about it for a while. Kevin, when will Tobe give up on the stupid kickoff rule and just make it simple and tell Butker to bash it through the end zone and give them the ball to 30 and move on? I mean, here's my complicated answer to this about the kickoff and the dynamic kickoff rule, as the NFL likes to call it. Nobody in the preseason is doing anything close to what they plan on doing during the regular season. I mean, they're all sandbagging and going pure vanilla right now. And don't forget, during training camp preseason, there's no live tackling in training camp. The only way that you get to live practice special teams is during these preseason games. So it is all about evaluation. I mean, there's a reason why the Chiefs are not going to be kicking the ball out of the end zone in the preseason, because they want to evaluate their coverage teams. They want to see who can play, who can't. So this is a forever thing. And it's not just the Chiefs, it's the NFL too. You want to try and force teams to return kicks because you want to evaluate them. You want to return kicks because you want to see about your protections and you want to see who's your best returners. I mean, you don't want to go through a preseason with just a bunch of touchbacks because you want to evaluate your teams. It's even more different this year because of the new kickoff rule. But I don't know how the Chiefs are going to tackle it. I know that they had a strategy during the offseason. Dave Toba suggested that they have tweaked that strategy, that maybe they've gone a different direction. I'm not sold that we've actually seen what they're going to do once they get. I will say, for instance, there was one thing that the Chiefs were planning on trying to use, which was the Harrison Butker worked a lot during the offseason and during the OTAs about putting the football sideways on the tee and kicking it that way, which the NFL just a couple of weeks ago came out and said, no, you can't do that because it's illegal. Because the ball has to be no more than an inch off the ground when you put it on the tee. And when you put the ball sideways on the tee, the ball is now an inch and a half off the ground. So they told teams you can't do that. So there's still going to be some weird things to this. There's going to be some tweaks, and the teams are going to try and do some weird things. There's no doubt about it once the season starts. But right now, they're going to give it a go. And I mean, are there going to be times? Dave Tobes told you there's going to be times that they are going to kick the ball out of the end zone and just say, yeah, here's the ball at the 30. Let's go. It's going to be probably when they're ahead and they're just trying to get out of games and minimize chaos and not give up any returns. But Dave Tobe, Andy Reid, they firmly believe if they can win special teams, it's an advantage. That if they can create turnovers, if they can create big plays on special teams, they're going to try and do that. And until they get into a situation where during the regular season where that backfires on them, I think they're going to continue to try it.
Matt, I think we're getting that lightning round portions. It's already 8:24.
You think?
I'm just saying, if I was your producer and you're on my pregame show, I would have told you I would be rushing you along, and I would have had to float a lot of things in the show.
Jimmy, the drop off from Pacheco to CEH ability potential is frightening. Feels like he's inflated because of loyalty and hard work than actual ability and potential to excel in this. He's not a 2.
That was not a question in any way, shape, or form. That was just a statement.
It was kind of. It was prefaced by question marks, Jimmy, so I'm going to give you that. But
unacceptable, Jimmy. That's questions only, not statements.
I will.
Okay? There's a comment section where you can criticize me on a weekly basis.
I will. Since it has question marks in the front of it, I'm just going to say, Jimmy, I don't know if I agree with the premise of your statement, but the statement has been made. Oh, Chiefs comments. Who on the roster bubble are you pulling for the most? Nick, we try not to pull for anybody.
I am pulling for anybody that helps them win a Super Bowl. Anybody that helps them win a Super Bowl, rooting for them.
Okay, we have a little bit different positions. Yes, you're allowed to be root for a little bit more.
Nope. I'm just rooting for whoever helps them win a Super Bowl.
I have to be objective. I'm not supposed to care whether or not they win the Super Bowl or I mean, I do care because it's good for business, but there's that. I try not to have any favorites because you try to be objective. I'm not going to lie. I've got a blind spot for some players from time to time, and I fully admit it. I mean, I have a blind spot for Chris Oladokun. Chris Oladokun, I like him as a person. He's a good dude. He's been good to me. He's a fun story. I like this. I would like to see him succeed. I don't know if he's going to, but
all right, here's something.
there's my soft spot. You all know it now.
Okay, soft spot. Okay, that's gonna. Whenever you said blind spot there, I know it's a statement that people use, but I'm like, doesn't that mean you can't see him and you may run him off the road like the truckers gonna do? And like I'm not criticizing you. I know a lot of people say that over the years, and just the imagery popped in my head at that moment of it and everything. And I'm like, well, yeah, if you're in a trucker's blind spot, he's gonna run you off the road when he gets over in the other lane. But then you said soft spot. I'm like, that makes more sense.
There you go. Gary, could the Chiefs pick up a running back when teams do their cuts? I mean, possible, Nick.
I wouldn't rule it out. Like, I think defensive end and cornerback's going to be higher priorities if there's an opportunity, whether via trade or signing a free agent or claiming somebody off waivers. But I think Chiefs more than likely to have to do a trade because the chances of them being able to claim anybody off waivers and nobody else doing it, that's going to be slim because of their position with the whole, winning Super Bowls. So, but yeah, no, I wouldn't put running back past them. I wouldn't put O-line past them. Like I could see multiple spots where that could happen.
Yeah. Completely agree. I mean, and running back's one of those. I mean, it's the beauty's in the eye of the beholder to a little bit of a degree. I mean, running back's an interesting position in this league. So yes, there could be a running back out there that the Chiefs like. Could also be very, very happy with the ones they've got. We'll find out. But Casey Harold, your big question going into game 2 that you were looking for an answer. There's a couple, but I'll say the overarching thing that I want to see in the second preseason game, I need to see Xavier Worthy with the ball in his hands. I think the Chiefs are going to try and do that. Obviously, they talked about the fact that first play of the game was designed for him to try to get it to him. Jacksonville took it away. I think they're going to force feed him a little bit in game 2. The first team offense will probably play a little bit more. Wouldn't be surprised if he got, at least a few more snaps, but just anything, swing pass, end around, punt return. Just need to see Xavier Worthy with the ball in his hand a couple of times, Nick.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to see the Chiefs passing offense look really good against the Lions in the first series or two, and then get them the heck out of there and keep everybody healthy, and then just go from there. But yeah, I mean, I'd love to see that. Love to see Jared Wiley get some looks with the first team offense. But I think if I'm in the Chiefs' shoes, maybe they hide that, save that for the Ravens and Bengals instead when you're trying to win wars and not battles. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, like, part of the problem is you and I see so much of training camp and OTAs and mandatory minicamp that we've already kind of gotten our minds where things are going to be and where things possibly are. So when people are like, is there going to be a surprise cut? Is there going to be this? No, I accepted like a month ago that this guy's probably not going to make the team. So it's just, I don't know.
Red Royce, Ross over KT. I mean, the way the Chiefs are looking right now, and I think I'd even say it if I were Brad Veach, the GM, I think I would take Justin Ross over Kadarius Toney right now. You, Nick?
I think he's higher up at this point. Like, you don't have two coaches, the head coach and the offensive coordinator, both saying, we really need to see more from Justin Ross on the field right now. But you got them saying that they need to see Kadarius Toney on the field. So
yeah, you're getting challenged by your coaches.
Look, when the coaches are willing to say that publicly, and for fans out there, they're literally hitting a hammer over all of our heads. So, like, asking, like, you don't know if you necessarily need to ask it.
Yeah. Brian, are the Chiefs keeping the guard combo and sending Creed packing? I mean, as our weekly question, in Dick, until the extensions get done. I'll give my short lightning round answer. If Creed wants to be paid like the highest paid guard in the league, I don't know how it gets done. I think you keep Trey Smith. I'm not certain that Joe Thuney is coming back, but at the price point, that he has. And we're going to find out how he looks at age 33. So let's see what happens. But so the combo, I don't know. I mean, I think you'd love to keep Trey and Creed if you can. However, I'm just not sure if that's possible either.
Yeah, I think with Joe Thuney, he's slowly, since they signed him, I feel like he's slowly been, age is catching up with him year by year. And we'll see what happens when he finally goes out there and performs with the pec. Because the thing that people keep forgetting about with a pec injury, like, it's part of your punch. It's part of the punch. And for an offensive lineman, that's the most important thing, is how well can you punch. So is he able to punch normally? Does he still have the same strength? Does he have all those things? Or is that deteriorating because of that? Or is it not the same as it was before? So either way, man, I unfortunately, I think for Joe Thuney, his cost this year and what it potentially could be next year, I think, is probably more than where he's going to be at worth. And I think they're going to have to make a decision to give his money to either Creed Humphrey or Trey Smith. And I just think that that's the reality. And I'll keep saying it every week we get asked. At least I'm consistent about it.
There you go. Pano, is Carson Steele a shoo-in to make the 53 as long as he produces like he did in game one? Well, as long as he also keeps producing in practice like he has been of late. I mean, you got to stay consistent, Nick. But, I mean, I'll give another sneak peek. Maybe I said it earlier. I'll just flat out say it now. I'll be finishing up my 53 roster projection after this stream tonight, and Carson Steele will be on it.
One, he's going to stay healthy. So, like, I mean, stay healthy. Do that first. Then just keep being the power running back that he is, and, like, he'll showcase a lot and keep working on special teams, and he'll continue to justify the versatility that he has and how he can be useful at multiple spots on the roster.
Lego, do you think Andy should have let Mahomes go for the touchdown instead of running out the field goal team on that drive, Nick, in Jacksonville? What do you think?
No, because you want to be positive. You want to put points on the board, and I think Hollywood Brown was going to be featured a lot more than he ended up being because of the injury and everything. So I think whatever they could do to get off that field and stay healthy, I think, was priority number one after the Hollywood Brown thing. We're like, well, we already lost the number one receiver potentially that we were trying to showcase here. Let's not lose anybody else. Let's get everybody else off the field at this point. So, and I mean, if Rice catches that, like, that drive continues, and maybe they do punch it in for a touchdown. But hey, they get another week. Just keep everybody healthy. I don't care what the results are as long as everybody stays healthy.
I was a little surprised that it looked like, to me at least, Mahomes was okay with the field goal. He was making a gesture that I wasn't entirely sure whether it was like he wanted to play for fourth down or he was just going ahead and gesturing that for the field goal career. But I didn't see his body language. Didn't seem like he was that upset about it. And I mean, it does make sense. You don't risk Patrick Mahomes on a fourth down play in a preseason game. So to me, yeah, just get the points, get out of there, move on. It's a preseason game. So Jacksonville probably would have gone for it in that situation, though, because they were trying to win the game.
Heck yeah.
And once again, that game meant a lot more to them than it did to the Chiefs. Chiefs come. Here's a fun question, Nick. Who on this team, outside of the obvious guys, could you see having a post-football media career?
Unfortunately, I don't know who the obvious guys are to Chiefs comments.
I will throw out there and just say, I'll say take off the table Mahomes, Kelsey, and Chris Jones.
Mm-hmm.
So after that.
No idea at that point.
I mean, Justin Reed would be the next one on my list. Justin's a good talker.
I'm thinking about this from a TV perspective. So he would have to get condensed.
Charisma. He's got some charisma. He needs to get condensed. Yes.
He needs to condense down his answers from a TV perspective.
I know who the correct answer is.
Go for it.
Trey Smith.
Trey Smith's gonna have to. So, like, since we're doing I'm doing this from a TV producer perspective. You've got to be energetic. You've got to be concise, and you've got to give good insight, but you can't talk over people's heads. Like, those are the things that you want in somebody that you're going to have as a color commentator in football. But also whenever you're doing like a post game show or something that you watch on NFL Network or ESPN, the viewer wants to learn something, but they don't want to feel like they're getting a word or math problem that they, that's just going to overwhelm them. And you don't want somebody who wanders. So in the TV world, you want everything, in all honesty, you want the bite, you want the answer, you want it to whatever you want it to be. You want it to be in 30 seconds to a minute. You don't want to wander past that, because then it gets boring. 2, you've got so many things stacked in a show. So, for example, I'm just going to use this from a pregame show perspective. The pregame show I did this past week was 42 minutes and 30 seconds. Now, the problems I had is if somebody ad-libs or somebody goes off script here a little bit, then I've got to kill some things. So I had to kill my Rees-Zammit segment I had, to where I had built an on-cam question about him, a video, a full screen, and a soundbite from him. So that ended up being 2.5 minutes I had to take away from the show to be able to stay on track. And then also at the time, for people that don't know that aren't familiar with TV, which should be probably everybody, the U.S. men's national basketball team had just won the gold. So, like, we were simulcasting.
USA.
Yes. So we were simulcasting on 41 and 38 the spot at the same time. Had the same break structure and everything, but they didn't get done with the gold ceremony until about 4:11:30, if I remember correctly. Not that I'm being exact on that, but it was right about that time. So we had just gone to break after our first segment, and so it worked out fine and everything. Then we came back into the B block, where Aaron and Pete started talking about some of the rookie class at that point. So then we get into that, everything stays the same, but because of the men's basketball team hitting at the time they did, or getting out at the time they did, I now had to fill part of that pregame show to try to meet when nightly news would take over, because they were condensing down and they weren't going to start till I think about 5:42 or something. So in the TV world, I'm doing all these numbers and I'm doing all the stuff. And so what I'm getting at is, you need people that can follow instruction, hit the timings that you need, and can be entertaining, energetic, effective, and do all that within a certain time. Now, are there times where they say something that's amazing and you just ride with it? Yeah. But in doing so, you're probably killing 2 minutes of other content that you may have worked 10, 15, 20, 30 minutes on.
This is great insight. I appreciate it, Nick. I'm trying to figure out if you're trying to trash or approve of Trey Smith.
I'm saying for Trey, players are always uncomfortable in front of the camera. Then players get really uncomfortable when somebody's talking in their ear. Because if you're saying your train of thought, and Matt knows this from being on Sunday Sound Off, there will be times where I'll tell Matt in his ear, Matt, rap. And when I say rap, that means you got 10 seconds before I force Mick to talk over you, because we got to move on. And we're a minute over.
And almost every time that Nick says, Matt, rap, I pause for half a second because my brain reboots.
And everybody's, and that's what I'm saying. Like, that takes time for people to hear that, and for people to grow accustomed to it, to where they can continue their train of thought while hearing somebody give them instruction at the same time. That's not easy. That's just something that just takes doing on camera work over and over and over and over again. So, I mean, and even when you think you'd be yelling on TV, you're not. You sound normal on TV. I'm not kidding you on that.
But that is a cool thing, is that there is a broadcast camp for NFL players every summer that they have, that players who are interested in going into the media afterwards can participate in. So they, guys who are interested in that can learn that and get that experience, so that when they do retire, they're not learning it on the fly. I mean, we've seen some networks who have hired guys who didn't go through that and have brought people in, and they really had to coach them up, or sometimes they're just terrible. Sometimes they hire somebody that doesn't get it and they have to get rid of them. I mean, sometimes they pay good money to people. They just have to kind of sit with them for a while until the contract's out. But I mean, that's why Trey would probably be at the top of my list, because, he has thoughts, he knows how to express them. I think he's got the basics down. He just would have to learn the techniques of it. Drew Tranquil is another good suggestion. I like that. You have to have a personality. I mean, that's the first of all. Yeah, so that's and you have to be charismatic, and Harrison Butker was thrown out there. You know what? Harrison might not be bad either. I mean, you have to have personality. You have to have you have to be charismatic. You have to be confident in what you say. I mean, I don't want to say that everybody can be taught how to be a broadcaster, but you can teach people how to be a broadcaster. You can't teach the other elements. But Albert, for the Hy-Vee trips, Nick, thank you for the super chat. I have to make sure that Nick and I split that now. So
I cannot accept money in any way, shape, or form.
Rank these players with chances to play in week 1. Tooney, Reed, Bolton, Hollywood. So
I think your first 3 play.
Yes, I would agree with that.
Hollywood's one I think is in doubt.
That would be the question mark for me as well. I would say, I mean, certainty-wise, I would say Tooney's the most likely. I think Bolton and Reed are probably tied. Although, that wrap on Bolton's elbow, I'm just going to say it really worries me. But
you need him for the Ravens and Bengals.
Oh, you absolutely do. I mean, there is no doubt. I mean,
if he has to sit out for the Falcons, then that's your week.
There you go. I think you're absolutely right about that. So
I don't think it's an accident that they both came back this week.
No, I mean, the timing is perfect because this is at least it gives them a couple of days to do some light work before the preseason game that they are not going to play in, and then next week it can be a little bit more serious. So
and still not playing that preseason game, and then get your following week to get you ready for the Ravens.
Exactly. And once again, I just should never, scroll.
Lightning round.
I know
you were at the 7:30. You were at 7:30.
I know. Oh, there we go. And we get to get to Aaron's question that I told him he was going to be disappointed in my answer an hour and 20 minutes ago. Odds of a Judon trade. I think it would elevate the edge room. It certainly would. I'm going to put the odds at 1%, Nick.
As I said on Twitter, I got asked this question yesterday. If he were to be released and signed a vet minimum with incentives, then I'm all for it. But if you're having to trade a pick that we already talked about earlier that you really kind of need to keep, there's somebody you want to get in the first or second round with next year's draft, especially in the first round, you need all the ammo you can get to be able to move up and get a difference maker. So I would keep those picks.
There you go. Duncan, how did Kingsley do? I'll defer to this one, Nick, because I know you watched a lot of his film today.
I watched everybody's film, even the hot dog vendor in section 113 did a great job throwing the hot dog to Roque. There you go. No, look, Kingsley, they were going out of their way to not put Kingsley on an island. So like they were doing play action passes. They were giving him a chance to get snaps in a game, but not force him into compromising situations that could wreck his confidence in any way, shape, or form. So he was only out there a handful of snaps, at best less than 10, I think, in terms of like offense and everything. I think he's out there for the first drive, and I don't remember seeing him anymore after that. So I don't think there's much you can take away from how he did or didn't do, because they didn't put him in situations that were going to force him to be one-on-one isolation-wise, having to protect Mahomes' blindside without Mahomes not having some variation of movement.
Harold was asking about the over-under on Juju questions, and I know there was a couple of more Juju questions on down the road. I mean, I'll just say it. I think the Chiefs passed for a reason the first time around, and if he were exceptionally cheap, maybe, but it's up to Juju probably more than anything else about how much money he wants. But I'm just not sure if the Chiefs want to go back down that road with the room that they have now. But I could be wrong. I
think it would depend on where his knee's at.
Yeah, that's why they passed the last time,
and that's why the Patriots released him. I don't think that knee's in a good spot.
Cody has Prince, number 34, really improved. I don't see it. A couple of other Prince questions about kind of the same vein, Nick. What do you think? I mean, I felt like he was good last year. He hit a rookie wall pretty early, which was kind of a surprise to me. But I think he's looked the same player he was. I don't know if he's dramatically improved. I mean, I don't know. I don't think he's any worse. But I think he's a decent developmental player still at this point. I mean, he can do a lot of things really well. I mean, he's always had good hands. It's just, to me, it's a question of, can he put the whole thing together as far as recognition and patience and all the things that you need as a running back?
Where he's improved in pass protection. He's a much better pass protector than he was before.
True.
He's got better confidence. He's better in his contact balance, and above everything else, he's okay with getting physical and not falling to the ground afterwards. So if he gets a chance to run somebody over, he's willing to lower the shoulder and rise up in the defender and then be able to keep better contact. Before last year, the problems he had problems with pass protection. He had problems when he get tackled, it'd be done. Like he couldn't, like for example, Carson Steele, once he took on that first hit, not only did he keep driving his lower, because he's got a powerful lower body strength. He kept driving his legs, and then he stiff-armed the guy into the ground, and then he took off, and then he broke it. He had a nice little leap to avoid a tackler, tripping him up, and then he ran over he started driving his legs and ran over another person. And then he ran over Justin Ross because Ross was in the way. So, for Prince last year, hypothetically, in that situation, Prince would have gotten stopped on that first contact when the linebacker filled the hole. This year, Prince actually has a juke move to be able to take it out, and he's a little bit more explosive. So has he improved? Yes. Are you going to be able to see it on what? He had maybe 2 carries at best in the game, if I remember correctly. So no, you're probably not going to see it on, on literally just a carry or 2, if that. So here's the thing about running backs. They need to be able to get in a rhythm. So if you're not giving them a lot of snaps, then you're not going to be able to see it because they're not getting enough snaps. So yeah, for Prince, he had 4 carries, 16 yards, he had a 10-yard run and then a 4-yard average. So, but he's also not exactly going behind the first team offensive line.
There you go. Great insight there. I can't add anything to it. I am skipping a couple of questions. If I skipped your question, it's just because we answered it a little bit earlier. So feel free to go back, and I will add some chapters after this is all done. So if you got some questions that didn't get answered, you can go back later and find those questions. Duncan, did Worthy get any targets in that game? He was supposed to get a target, but didn't work out. So no, didn't have. I don't think he did not have any targets in that game. Correct, Nick? He only played the 6 snaps.
No, they had him on the first play. They had him running deep because you're going to throw the ball to him, but the safety rotated over. He'd already beaten the corner, but the safety rotated over. On the pass, Rice dropped. Worthy. If Mahomes had time, Mahomes had potentially had him open in the back corner for a touchdown, but because Mahomes is being rushed off that right side with the blitzer, Mahomes had to take what would be in his world considered a check down because of what he can throw. He had to take Rice on the cross over the middle, but Worthy was starting to get open, but Mahomes had to mechanically get the ball out right then and there. He was going to take a really big hit. Yes, and Duncan's got a lot of questions tonight. That's number 3 at minimum.
Oh, you're doing a better job keeping track tonight. So, Sharon, names of corners or DNs the Chiefs might sign. That is the challenge, because I feel like that if there was anyone out there currently on the market that the Chiefs wanted, I think they would be here. That's why I think that you're probably looking more towards waiver wire, and you're looking towards the trade market. And like I said, I don't think that if it's a trade, I don't think it's anything that the Chiefs would want to give up significant resources for. Maybe you would even see one of the rare player for player trades if the Chiefs can find the right, potential partner. But I mean, is there anybody out there just burning in your heart, Nick, that you'd say, oh, the Chiefs need to bring this guy in?
No, but I mean, what you do, what from my understanding, what general managers do this time of year is you're predicting. You look at other teams' depth charts, where each team has a surplus at a position group. So this team has a surplus at DN. Do they play a similar style? Do they have similar type of priorities traits-wise that the Chiefs hypothetically would? Or the team, whoever they are. Then most GMs try to at least reach out and check with other teams like, hey, if you potentially have such and such, it's a such and such position, if you're potentially looking for something, what would you guys need? What's a position you would potentially need? And then that other team, there may be another team calling the Chiefs saying, hey, if you guys potentially have somebody, a receiver that you're thinking about, moving on from, we have this available at this position group. Do you think you'd be interested? And for people that wonder when that happened, Cowboys Chiefs, Parker Anger for Charvarius Ward. So this is kind of what, if there's an opportunity to showcase some guys, other teams are doing that. Not just the Chiefs. There are other teams that are going to showcase some guys to try to create a trade value because they're more than likely going to waive that person, and they still see getting value at another position group that they still need help with. And avoiding waivers, especially if a team is in the draft class has been 20 to 32 range, they know they're probably not getting them off waivers because one of those top 10 teams is probably going to get somebody. So that's what some of those teams on the back end do from time to time to try to make it work. And you've seen a couple of trades already happen to where, somebody needed a center, so they went and traded for a center with another player or pick. And you're going to continue to see that up until till that Thursday night after the third preseason game.
Yep, absolutely. Bears 2581. You guys are the favorite place to come for Chiefs news. Appreciate that, Bears. Very kind. This question's for you, Nick. What are the chances Ross and Remigio both make the 53?
I don't think it's out of the realm after Hollywood Brown got hurt, because I think you don't want to put Hollywood Brown on IR. Ideally, you're hoping he's back within a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, whatever. So you don't want to put him on IR. But you're still going to need somebody so you can make Hollywood Brown inactive. So I think the chances of them having 7 receivers now went up after that injury occurred. And so where that number gets taken away, I think that's the bigger question. So could Ross and Romeo both make the team? Yeah, I think they both can. The question will be, is Sky Moore going to wreck that or not? Or is by some way we're reading in too much to Kadarius Toney thing, and Kadarius Toney surprises us all and makes the roster. All of it is possibilities, but again, at the end of the day, we are talking a ton about potentially 6th and 7th receivers that on this roster. It's apparently a good problem to have if you're worried about the 6th and potentially 7th receiver.
Jesus has an interesting question, Nick. Do you have steak with ketchup?
No.
No.
Next question.
That was a quick one. I mean, I'm not going to lie, Nick. I will if it's not a super well-cooked steak.
I wouldn't even do it then.
Although I would mix the ketchup with some Worcestershire sauce. Or
I'll recommend a steak sauce to you. You can pick up Hy-Vee if you ever have that problem.
What's your steak sauce of choice?
I'll be right back. You ask the next question. Take me off the screen. I'll go get it. Do some product placement here. I'm waiting until you take me off the screen.
The Dockster. What are your thoughts about Steele during practice? Does he appear to be picking up the playbook? I think he is. I mean, does look pretty comfortable. I mean, the Chiefs on Tuesday today, they had him playing a lot of snaps because he's moving up the depth chart, so he played a little bit more than he would normally have had. And they've had him doing some things that would have him in different positions, things that maybe he was uncomfortable with. So he was split out a few times. And this is the thing I told this with Ryan Tracy earlier, who's obviously a big fan of Carson Steele. But I get asked, is Carson Steele going to make this team as a fullback? And the answer to that question is no. I mean, the Chiefs are not just going to strictly keep a player to be a fullback. He's not really a traditional fullback. He's got elements and ability to play fullback, and that's why the Chiefs like him. But if Carson Steele makes this team, it's going to be because he can play running back, because he can play a little fullback, he can play a little H-back, he can split out, he can play tight end, he can play special teams. He's going to be able to do it all. So, and I think I think he looks reasonably comfortable. I mean, rookie, there's a lot to learn, but I think he's doing okay with it. And your steak sauce of choice, Nick, is?
Matt, when I need some steak sauce, I get Texas Roadhouse.
That's a dual product placement here for potential sponsors.
Smoky and tangy. It's the one they actually serve there, but they've got a specific name for it now. And the first time I had their original steak sauce, I was like, this is not what I've had at the restaurant. Then when I did that one, I was like, there it is. There it is right there. So that's what I recommend, Matt. You can buy it at Hy-Vee.
Finally tuned. Why keep more than 6 wide receivers ever, Nick?
Already answered it a minute ago when everybody talked about
because you like a 7th receiver.
Hollywood Brown potentially gets hurt.
I mean, that's it. I mean, you feel like that you got a guy that you can't sneak onto the practice squad. You don't want to lose him. You got to keep him in there, especially if you think you need him for injury purposes and depth chart reasons. Pano, who are the two linebackers ahead of Jacobs? I mean, at least the two that I have making it would be Cam Jones and Jack Cochran. I think those two are, firmly on the 53. Jack Cochran for sure. I think Cam Jones is firmly on the 53. Others may feel differently, but I think I've seen enough, and certainly the way the Chiefs are using him, I think they consider him part of the 53 right now. So
I don't have anything different to say. Lightning run.
Dylan, are you concerned with the defense from what you've seen in the first preseason game? Is Justin Reed back at practice? Justin Reed was back at practice today on a limited basis, but Nick, I'll let you take that one first. Were you concerned after what you saw in the first preseason game?
No.
That is the.
I don't like. They're only a handful of snaps, man. Like, we're over here, like, they're not actually game planning for what they're going against the Jaguars. Like, that's just like, hey, we're going to run this coverage, and this is what we're going to do. This is what we want to see how this person handles this coverage. And if they see this, then cool, we'll evaluate it based off this, or we'll evaluate it off that. Like, I mean, at the end of the day, like, you can't read anything into the preseason because they're literally just – it's like somebody on Madden just picking plays. They're literally just hitting the X button, or if it's a Xbox, the A, B, or C button. They're just hitting a button and they're just going with it. It's not game plan. Like on 3rd and 6, they're going to run this. Everybody's just out there trying to evaluate right now. So no, I don't care in any way, shape, or form if they win, if they lose. I'm just looking at what people do with their individual matchups.
That is an excellent point, and that's what I just want to see better in week 2. I need to see some players better in individual matchups, because especially on the defense, there were some losses that some guys had, and especially the secondary. I definitely want to see better performances the second time around. But your calm rationalness is a well stood point, Nick. Thank you very much. This is a great question. We've had it before. I'm actually gonna ask this of Andy Reid. I mean, I ask it in public. I'll try to ask him maybe in private. Why does Andy hate the number 0? I don't know. I don't know that he does, but
this is Severio Akapenny's favorite question to ask me every time I chat with him. He's a family friend. It's a passion question of his. He wants to see somebody wear the number 0, and he wants to know why nobody ever wears it. That's Severio loves this question. Very passionate about it.
There you go. Robin, will they cut Pennel since there are 6 elevations? I think I may have said 6 elevations earlier, referring to 2 players. One player gets 3 elevations. I mean, you can reset them if you release them, yada, yada. But I mean, more specifically, I don't think the Chiefs are cutting with Mike Pennel. I mean, I think he's making the 53.
So, Robin, how dare you ask this question of the best run defender that the Chiefs have? Like, he's literally their starting 1 tech. And, like, Derek Nottie hasn't been out there. And, like, the better question is, do they keep Derek Nottie? Like, that's the bigger question is, does Derek Nottie make the 53? Because, I mean, is he better than Farrell? I don't know. He hadn't been out there on a regular basis. And he's coming off that elbow thing. And past couple years, he hasn't really looked much better than what Farrell's doing right now, and he's never looked like what Mike Pennell's doing. So I would never cut this. Who should be the starting 1 tech that makes your run defense really good? Him, Chris Jones, Mike Dana, and George Karlaftis, and even Leo Chenal when he bumps down there. And I wouldn't something I'm crazy about. I would love to see. I would love to see Leo Chenal as a stand-up edge rusher.
You and me both.
Like, I want to see that. So Steve Spagnuolo, if you want to get in your bag of tricks and try that one. So, like, that may be part of the solution that they need for an edge rusher potentially, because that dude's got the strength and athletic ability to hold an edge and be a DN if he needs to. So that's how
ridiculously strong.
No, I would not cut Mike Pennel. I would not cut your starting 1 tech that actually gives you a really good run defense and gives you a better chance of stopping the run, especially when you play the San Diego Chargers coming up in the first. Ravens and San Diego Chargers.
I'm going to defend Robin a little bit here and take some of the blame, because I feel like it is my fault. Because I wasn't
going to say it.
I'll wear it, Nick. I'll wear it, because before Mike Pennel signed, I did only half seriously. There was some joking. There was some seriousness, but half joking too, which was that I would sign Mike Pennel and just say, Mike, hey, you're on the Chiefs. Go home, chill out for until November. We'll have you come in. Want you and your 33-year-old body ready for the stretch. It's all good. Don't worry about it. That was before I talked to Mike and found out what he wanted to do. And reality was he hated last year. I mean, that half of the year, he hated the fact that, he wasn't around the team and didn't get to be in the locker room and wasn't part of it. I mean, he wanted to find the best situation, and he was hoping the Chiefs would call at some point, and he got that call and was ecstatic when they did. And he made it clear. I mean, he only really wanted to play in Kansas City this year. I mean, that's where he wanted to be. But he also made it clear to Brett Veach and the Chiefs, he's like, if I'm going to be with you guys this year, I want to be there from day one. I want to be there from training camp and everything. I want to be in the locker room. I don't want to be with the boys. I don't want to come in mid-season. It's too hard, and it's not as fun. It's not, what he wants. So, and he said it on his press conference a couple of weeks ago. I mean, he wants to be on the 53. And even I wouldn't blame him if he had veteran prerogative at this point in his career and was like, hey, yeah, let me just hang out in the practice squad for 8 weeks and I'll come in for the second half of the season and, be relief and everything. But I'll give it to him, Nick. I mean, he's playing like he's 10 years younger than he is. I mean, he's looked great in training camp. He's looked spry. I mean, I don't want to, make it sound like he's 72 years old out there and, running around without a cane or something, but he's looked good. So I'm not going to begrudge him. I mean, Mike Pennell's earned everything he's got this year, and he's earned every spot he's got on this team. So I'm going to stay in the way because Mike Pennell could also pound me into the ground if he wanted to. So
all I'm
he
saying
wouldn't because he's a good dude.
I'm saying he's their starting one tech, and if he's not out there as a starting one tech, you're going to see some gashes in the run game. That's all I'm
Here's an even more, rational explanation. Dylan had a second question. Is Carson Steele going to take the running back number 2 spot? I don't know. And honestly, I mean, I think at this point, I mean, based on what we've seen this week, I mean, Clyde might be his other competition for that spot. We'll see what happens when Clyde comes back and where he slots in. But I mean, Carson's getting number 2 reps for now. We'll see if he can hold on to him, Nick.
See what happens in the preseason game on Saturday, and if they put him in there and let him get some first-team offensive reps, or they hold him to second team, or they put him against the third team where he will run over people.
There you go. Some of you got kind of chippy tonight. I'm just going to say.
8:39, I think you have LRZ.
I'm just saying, everybody, you don't need to be so chippy. It's the preseason here. Relax, everybody.
Yeah, guys, and check out the comment section where people get chippy with me every week about me having Justin Ross as a 7th wide receiver.
Well, now I'm trying to figure out why Electro says I should try rap instead. LRZ seems like a great kid, pulling for him, but he looked lost out there in the first game. What's your take, Nick?
I mean, it was his first time ever playing a football game, let alone an NFL game on top of it. So, like, I think people forget that he's never played in a football game before, and he's doing it at the highest level possible in the entire world. That would be like me going out, I don't know, and playing in the Olympics, the gold medal game on Saturday, and playing basketball for, technically it wouldn't be my first time, but first time playing against professionals that have done this for years, yes. And then expecting to be like, well, why didn't Nick get all those rebounds? He's 6'2" against Joel Embiid. That's, 6'8", 6'9" range. Like, why didn't he get all those rebounds? Like it's gonna take time for LRZ to learn, man. Like, give him a year. Give him a year.
That cracked me up.
Very, very true. Very accurate.
That's very accurate.
And a lot of Kansas City media has heard that from being on Sunday Sound Off. I'm like, all right, we got to wrap.
Yes, although usually when I hear it, Nick, it's because I'm going after Jason Anderson, who's taking all my time.
No, it's because I've run out of time, and we're already a minute over in the block that was supposed to be 10 minutes, and we're at 11:30 at that point. I got to figure out where I'm going to take time out of in the next 2 segments, or I don't have time to take.
Oh, dear. Yes. All right, we've hit 9 o'clock. I need to make sure that Nico gets his steak and his potato.
You're fine. If you got any more questions left, go for them.
All right, there you go. There is a last call. So if you got some good ones in there, we'll grab it.
We'll do one more question, Matt, and because you gotta get going up to you got to be at camp at an early time.
I got to be at camp at a ridiculous early time tomorrow. I've got to be there like 7:25 now. So, yeah, not looking forward to that. I'm looking through just to see if there's anything. I mean, I know, like I said, everybody, I know I skipped a few questions. Hopefully, if I skipped yours, it was just because we answered it earlier.
Yeah, no, we answered what the theme of each one was. We didn't. Oh, and for people that don't know, or people that watch us, whether it's now or later, whether it's 41 as the mic or this live thing, just so you guys know, the more people that hit the like button. So, for example, we had like 4,000 people watch 41 as the mic. Each time you hit the like button, that helps it from an algorithm perspective pop up for other people to see on YouTube, from my understanding. I could be terribly wrong, and I just,
No.
But from what I've been told, like that's what helps us introduce to other people. So don't you want to share this podcast and this question each and every week with other people? Don't be selfish, guys. Share it with
up over 4,600 now. So
share it with an enemy. Share it with a frenemy.
You want to hit the like, obviously, so other people can help find all the videos on Chiefs Digest on the YouTube, and you need to give us a 5-star review wherever you listen to your podcast, so that more people will find the podcast. And also, just because we haven't had, we just need some more reviews. I'm just going to say we need some more reviews of. For me and Nick. So and if you have anything bad to say it about me. You don't need to say it about Nick, because
don't worry.
That's what the YouTube comments are reserved for.
That really is. Like, it's every week. Like, how can we bash Nick's personality or his ability to evaluate something? Because I think Justin, I'm just gonna say this is gonna be my rant for the night. I'm sorry, Matt. And then I see Dominic wants to do something CeeDee Lamb wise, so we'll finish with that. But what I will say when it comes to Justin Ross can make acrobatic catches. Yes, he can. He's a big-bodied receiver. He is athletic. Yes, he is. He has a certain area of the game that works for him, that highlights his features. Just like you work with people, there's certain people skill set wise that can do this, and this, but they can't do that, and that. So you have, whenever the Chiefs feature what he's good at, people are like, oh, it's acrobatic catch. He's like Martavius Bryant. He's this, he's that. Oh, he's like Randy Moss with that jump right there. Yes, whenever he's put in that situation on that throw with a back shoulder against a corner that's not going to be starting in the league, yes, he can definitely do that. But whenever, there's just more to Andy Reid's offense that, like, you're not putting him as a number 2 or number 1, number 1, number 2, number 3 wide receiver if you have to run certain parts of the offense. So that's what I'm saying. Like, Matt and I have continually recognized what his skill set is and what he can do and what he's available. And I've said time and time again that he needs a 10-yard head start to get up to full speed and make the cuts athletically that he's able to make. So, we're telling you what he's capable of, but people think because we recognize what his skill set is, that means we're quote unquote hating on him or whatever phrase is being used, because of the fact that we're recognizing who he is as a player. I wandered. I hope I went to the right spot. I hope I got there. But if I didn't, you can tell me about it in the comment section.
Well, tell us, Nick. CeeDee Lamb to the Chiefs. Is it happening?
Well, if you believe Pretty Ricky, the number is right now that CeeDee Lamb and the Cowboys are, Pretty Ricky's claiming in his tweet, $32.5 million. What the Cowboys and him are potentially at. And now that the Brandon Ayuk thing has kind of come around to what Pretty Ricky already tweeted a week and a half ago.
Pretty Ricky lives.
To where he said the Steelers were trading for the 49ers, and then now the insiders have gotten to the point where they said Steelers got an offer on the table of the 49ers. And I'm just saying, like, I've thrown this theory out here before, and I could be terribly wrong, but Matt, I am still 100% convinced that Pretty Ricky works at an agency in the industry, and they're it's their burner account, because there's just too much.
Somebody's burner account. Yes,
they've said too much and they've been too connected, and it might be a player that's really well connected, but there's somebody they actually have legitimate involvement in the league, because there's been too much that's been spot on hours in advance of what has been made public consumption.
But to the original question, CeeDee Lamb is not going to the Chiefs.
that's too much money, and you're gonna have to give multiple draft picks that are. If you hit free agency, then yes. And Jeremy's asking, who's Pretty Ricky?
Who's Pretty Ricky? Yeah.
And, I'm just double checking.
I mean, bottom line, Jeremy, you don't want to know.
Wow, dude, that's cool.
It's just gonna be it's gonna take you down a rabbit hole, Jeremy, that if you're not in, you don't want to be in it. So I'm just saying,
Jeremy, all you have to do is search Pretty Ricky, but put an E to where it's like key. Instead of what you put there, put an E in between the K and Y. Just put Pretty Ricky Twitter, and it literally pops up immediately. And just follow along on that journey.
He's Pretty Ricky. What, 213? Is that what it is?
Change it. Or? It has those numbers in there. Yeah, 213. Nailed it, Matt. And then somebody asked what my shirt says. It says Roman Empire State of Mind, for the meme that was going around a while back about how often do you think about the Roman Empire. So I like to walk around at public places and wear that shirt so people know that it's actually not on my mind, but I want people to think it is.
I didn't crop myself so you could see my T-shirt tonight, but since I am wearing one of the All Juice T-shirts, I am going to show that. So
outstanding. Ebony would be very
always repping All Juice and Therese when I can. So, and Brian has a great point here, Nick. We should get together at Zarda's for the Chiefs Digestion.
Chiefs Digestion.
I mean, any barbecue place wants to sponsor that, you've got it. So.
I'm sorry, I didn't think of that before. That's very clever. That's very clever. Tip of the cap, Brian. Outstanding.
Tip of the cap to
Put
tip
in
of
the
the cap,
comment
Brian.
section, I have a personality this week, please.
There you go. And I'm not going to lie, I will not be probably paying a whole lot of attention to the YouTube questions and comments in the next 36 hours because I've got a ridiculously early day tomorrow. I'm behind on a couple of stories. I have a crappy early day on Thursday for the day when camp shuts down and everything. So my next 36 hours, not good. But I then have like 36 hours after that, which are fine. And I'm going to be diving into the YouTube questions and comments. So make good comments, put some good questions on the videos and on this one if you've got more questions, and I'm going to answer them definitely before the game on Saturday. So, but I pledge that I will get things answered by Friday. So make it known, make your questions known, be nice in the comments, be nice to Nick. You don't have to be nice to me. I mean, you can call me all sorts of names. I'm fine with that.
It's like playing a game of Pac-Man. People enjoy it. I get it. I get it. So I left you the promo if you want it, but don't forget to lose the question before you run the promo.
Well, we will lose the question. There you go. Nick, thank you very much as always for joining us. Appreciate your time greatly. Thanks to everyone for the questions. I hope you enjoyed yourselves tonight. Thanks for sticking with us. Thanks for sharing this where you can so that other people will find the channel, the conversation, podcast, everything.
Like it.
And then we will see you sometime after the game on Saturday with 41 is the mic, whether it's late Saturday or early Sunday. You'll be seeing it pop up on your streams here on YouTube and wherever you get your podcast, since you should be subscribed to the podcast as well. Anything else, Nick? Any parting thoughts?
Like it.
Like everything that you can. We appreciate that. So everybody have a great week. Enjoy the game this weekend, and we'll be with you afterwards with 41 is the mic, and then back here for the Q&A next Tuesday. Take care, everybody.
All things Chiefs, right here. 41 is the mic, a Chiefs podcast on your home of the Chiefs. Listen now wherever you get your podcasts. Also available to watch on KSHB 41.